Hey guys, today's episode is a fun one. I get to chat with my friend Ben Mandelker of Watch What Crappens. Everybody knows the Crappens guys. And I did an interview with Ben May 29th of 2019. That's a long time ago. But I got to tell you, he's still the same Ben. He's so great. I really appreciate him coming back on to do this then and now episode. So if you want to find that Payne in the Pod episode, it will be at the end of this episode, or you could go to the Payne in the Pod feed and find it. It's episode 39. So enjoy this episode and then and now with Ben Mandelker of Watch What Crappens. Hey everybody, welcome to Pink Shade. It's Monday, and because we don't have any more Love After Lockup until I don't know when, 2 more weeks, I'm excited because on Mondays I'm getting to put out some vintage type materials, and this is an episode of Then and Now, which means I'm going to talk about an episode I did a Payne in the Pod from way back when, and I've got Ben from Watch What Crappens to discuss it with me. This episode that we're discussing from Payne in the Pod was May 29th, 2019, episode 39. It's the last time I was in LA before this most recent trip.
Wow, and the world has changed, Mary Payne.
Yeah.
Everything is listening to it back. It's like, wow, that we were so innocent. We didn't know we had a global pandemic coming around the corner and
I know.
everything
I
would be
know.
different.
I know. Since then, I've gotten 2 dogs.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, we had a global pandemic. You guys won the iHeart Best Podcast Award.
Yeah,
All
we
these things
that's
happened.
yeah, I mean, really, I think I like the order there. Dogs, global
Yeah.
pandemic,
Uh-huh.
iHeart Award.
That's right. That's
Those
right.
are the if you need to catch up over the past 5 years, those are the 3 takeaways.
Um, because this is video, we should address the elephant in the room, which is me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You don't have to leave that up.
hi Mary, how are you? So good to see you. Um, the I put up a picture of Mary behind me. I just took it from X, formerly known as Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
because I was supposed to see you in Los Angeles, and I had to back out because Ronnie and I were recording a million shows, including Vanderpump Rules and The Valley, back to back. And those
Okay.
are big episodes, and we wound up spending like 2 hours on each one of them. And then we
As
also
you
had to
do.
do Below Deck. Actually, we did 3 episodes. I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember what exactly we did, but I just know we were at our desks recording for hours, and I
Yes.
had to bail on you and our little reunion. And then you had to go back east.
And here we are. But here's the truth is that Ingrid and I were on our way back. We'd gone to Venice and we're on our way back. And you sent me that text. I was like, did I write any notes for that? Because I was so, we were just going and going and going for 8 days. And I had the schedule down to the T. But everything that got on the schedule didn't always make it to my calendar and then
Mm,
transfer time zones. So I don't even know if it literally turned out to be perfect.
yeah.
Not that I didn't get to see you, but perfect because maybe I would have had to wing it because my notes wouldn't have been complete. So now my notes are complete, and here
Now
we
your
are.
notes are complete. And by the way,
Yes.
when you said, "Oh, I'm coming back from Venice right now," I was also like, "Oh, you're not. You are a ways out because there's no way, as you may know from watching Vanderpump Rules, Venice is right next to Marina Del Rey, and
Yes.
it is never a hop, skip, and a jump away." I was like, "You have a journey ahead of you to get back to your hotel." Was it a journey for you, or was it okay?
I would have made it by the skin of my teeth because when I tell you that we didn't realize everywhere we went in LA was an hour. Everywhere. It was like, oh, you just come
Especially
to my house, the
Venice.
Valley, or come to this. And it was like, oh, it's 5 miles. Psh. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no, it's going to take us an hour. Everything was an hour.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
One of the things, one of the perks of living in Los Angeles is when friends come in from out of town, and they
Hmm.
pull that move all the time. They're like, "Hey, so we're still gonna meet in like 20 minutes, right? I'm just at Santa Monica, so I'll be there in like 20 minutes." Like, oh, I'll see you in an hour. I'll see you in an hour. Every single time.
It's funny you said that about Sheena because at some point we were driving along, and as you do, you're just like, oh, look at there's that, there's this, there's Laurel Hardware that people talk about, or something. And as we were driving by, I look over and I go, oh my God, it's Tucker Madero. Rob gets waitress at Tucker Madero. He never kisses anybody.
Oh my God, Taco Madeira. Isn't it
I
so
started laughing
fun?
so hard. Yeah, I was like, look at that, because I had a chat with Mark L. Wahlberg, not to
Oh,
be confused with the other Mark Wahlberg,
correct.
Mark
Yeah.
L. that hosts Temptation Island, and I did a sit down for his podcast called Bonfire Talks, and was over at Patrick Hickey's house for that. And he was like, something weird. In real life, I'm friends with um, Rob Parks Valletta. And I was like, that's crazy. He goes, yeah. So I just had him on the podcast. He goes, but I just know him as my friend that I play basketball with. I go, well, he was on Vanderpump Rules. He goes, yeah, he told me that with Sheena, who's the boyfriend. I go, yeah, Madison Marie Parks Valletta. Everybody knows that. Yes.
Rob had what, one season on the show, but it was like the season to be on. It was right. What are the standout seasons of Vanderpump Rules? I think it's four seasons, one and two. One was
Hmm.
like wow. Two was
So good.
even wilder. And then was it season six? Was the Rob? Season six was I think was the Jax cheated on Brittany with Faith season, right? And I think that's where Rob was on that, and that was like that was such a white hot season. The show, it was almost too good for the show because then the show suffered for the next 2 or 3 seasons. It could not get past, like it was just too good. And then of course we had Scandival, which is
Yeah.
probably
I
its
mean,
most defining season.
Jax with Faith, while she was doing home care for an elderly woman, and he was having sex with her while an elderly woman was sleeping in the next room, was tough. It's
It's a
tough stuff.
tentpole season.
Yes.
So Rob was
Wow.
on that season, and that was a
Yeah.
great season for him to be on.
Yeah. Every time, he would say something, I was like, yes, he can hang a TV in 7 minutes. He's like, that's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. It's like, yeah, you should get him over here, do some AV work for you guys. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about when you were on Payne in the Pod, my former podcast. You came to my Airbnb where I was with my old co-host Aaron,
Yes.
and I got to meet you in person. I was so starstruck. Do you know that night we were having dinner with Eliza Rosen and Countess Luann? And I talked so long to you that I had exactly 24 minutes to get ready before we had to be at Soho
That's right.
Soho House. I was trying to say, and I had 24 minutes because I talked to you. I ran in the bathroom. I was like, you'll never know somebody can get ready faster than I can. I got ready
Wow.
so fast. I didn't want to miss that Countess Luann
I
dinner.
I didn't realize that your other party was Eliza because now I have met
Yeah.
and I've met Eliza. Love her. She's great. She's
Isn't she
wonderful.
great?
Yeah.
She's great. Yeah, that's Eliza was who hooked us up with that because Eliza was friends with Countess Luann from something they had done in the reality TV world prior. So when Luann was coming to town, she asked Eliza to go to dinner, and then we tagged along. But when that dinner was like on a Friday night, because the Countess Luann show was on Saturday night, that Thursday was then the news that hit the press that she had failed a sobriety test.
Mm,
She
was
blew
it your
because she
fault?
had had a one mimosa, darling, after a cabaret show. And
That's
then she had,
right.
yeah, and then she had to fly after the LA show. She had to fly right back to New York. She had to go to court. She was in trouble.
Uh, it would have been great if she failed the sobriety test because of you. Like, imagine if
No,
you had been like, Luann, just have one drink. It's like no big deal. No one has to know. And then all of a sudden, it's like Mary Payne is the cause of Luann's sobriety downfall.
no, 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 no. It happened before me. It happened before me. I take no responsibility.
Okay. All right.
But she was really great. And since then, I've been trying to ride that high. Whenever I've seen her in person, remember when we had dinner? And she's like, no,
She doesn't
no,
remember you. No, you've
she
been
doesn't remember
deleted.
me at all, and that's okay. You know, she's Countess Luann. She doesn't have to remember anything.
Absolutely not.
Did you go to her latest show? Has it come back to LA? Mary Fuck Kill?
Mary Fuck Kill. I haven't seen it. I think I was out of town when it came back here. It originally was going to actually uh, be the night before the Golden Crappies. So that
Oh,
was
no
going
way
to
you could
be
have gone. Too busy.
right, and that was going to be the debut or the premiere of the tour, and then I think that date got pushed back.
Uh-huh.
And so I don't remember when it. Maybe it already, I think it was in March that she did it out here.
It was a few
But
weeks ago, yeah.
yeah, I think I was out of town for that.
Okay.
I would have because I've gone to her show twice, and I enjoy. I love me some Countess Luann, my favorite Real
Yeah.
Housewife.
I mean,
But did you get to see it, Mary Fuck
I
Kill
have
yet?
no, I haven't seen it. I saw the one that was in LA that I saw you at that time in 2019. And then
Yep.
later I saw a version of that same show in Wisconsin because I went to visit my podcast partner there and we went to the show there in Wisconsin. So I've seen it twice, but I think I've seen the same show twice. And she did a Christmas one here in DC,
Right.
but I think
Christmas with the Countess.
yes, I've heard this one current iteration is really good.
Oh, good. It's
Yeah.
amazing that she's been able to like really stretch out this cabaret moment. Like she's
Oh
still
yeah.
doing it,
hmm
touring,
She's
everything.
she's out there wearing those dresses, looking amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Good for her.
Well, when I spoke to you in May of 2019, you were telling me how you started out on Crappens was, and I didn't remember this till I re-listened to that, was started out called Housewives Hoedown.
Yeah. It was, well, because it wasn't a podcast back then. It was just a web show. And
Okay.
it was a web show that I hosted. And so then that's when I brought on Ronnie and Matt. And then we just had fun. And then the web show was canceled. So we're like, let's keep doing this. And we did it.
And what happened to Matt? Because Matt, he left, but I don't know. I
Right.
don't know.
So
I
he
don't
was,
know of Matt.
Matt, so at that time he was working at Yahoo News, which Yahoo News
Mm.
was a bigger presence in 2012. And so he got a job, I believe at that time as an editor, and he was like, I'm not sure if I have the time to do both these things. So it's like, why would he give up like a legit good job with Yahoo for like some podcast with like 1,000 listeners at a time when podcasts weren't even a thing. So
Yeah.
he went off and did that. And then eventually he wound up working at Netflix. I don't know if he's still at Netflix. I think he is, but he was actually, I think, working the marketing department.
Wow.
But I haven't seen Matt in a few years. I know we follow each other on Instagram, and he's always doing fabulous things. He just went to Madonna the other night.
Wonderful.
I will often write little messages or little comments. I really adore Matt. And it's actually a travesty that I've not seen him in so long. So I really should try to see him because I just think he's so funny and so sharp, and he
Yeah.
has great hot takes. So I hope he's doing
Well,
well.
next time Ronnie falls ill, you could bring it back on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
We don't want
Ronnie
Ronnie to
never
fall
falls
ill.
ill. Ronnie clocks in no matter what. Me, I'm like, oh, it's a little cold out. I think I have to take a sick day. He is like, will not miss a day unless he absolutely has to.
Wow. But you got sick recently. You had like your gallbladder out. That's when we were at
My
BravoCon.
appendix. My
Appendix.
appendix. My appendix.
Yes.
I had appendicitis back in October. It was wild. I was not expecting that.
And then we went to BravoCon and you were posting the funniest BravoCon stuff about how you missed it. It was gold. Gold.
Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you. That's-
Um, so you had been doing the pod Crappens for 7 years last time we talked.
yeah.
Now it's 12.
I know. I couldn't believe listening back when I said I've been doing it for 7 years. I was like, I can't believe in 2019 it had only been 7 years because it feels so long ago now that
Yeah.
when we started. But like to think that's already been 5 years since that moment
Yeah.
is wild. Like that's where it won't be too long before that interview that we did was the halfway mark of the Crappens lifespan. That it's just wild that much time has passed.
I know. It's crazy to listen back to these things because I've done this then and now. I did it with Ryan. I did it, and he had just started. And Kate Casey, and I do, like Heather McDonald and Matt and Jake, and I'm going to try to get Danny back on. Just
Hmm.
like so many people in the reality world that I did this with. And I did it with I did like The Shrink Next Door. I did some other more serious ones because really that's just my interest is like true crime and reality TV. But gosh, when I listen back to him, I'm like, well, first of all, I'm just prepared to cringe, right? I'm prepared it's going to be horrible. I must have been
It was good.
terrible. But it was really good.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah.
I was like, I feel like I was more articulate back then. I was like, I was like, oh, this. I was like, I don't talk like that anymore. What happened to me? Did I just get dumber? Has like 5 years of talking about the housewives and having a global pandemic just ruined me? Really
Yeah,
sad.
well, you wouldn't be the only one. So back then you said you guys did 5 episodes a week plus one bonus. Now, what are you doing now?
It depends. We are currently doing about 8 episodes a week. It's really hard because
There's so many shows.
there's so many shows, and there are so many considerations. We want to cover all the shows, And then if we don't cover a show, we get a lot of people who say, "Why aren't you covering the show? You should cover it. It's so good. I know. Just trust us. You'd really have so much fun." And we kind of can't resist. We're very much like Sheena. We're people pleasers, and so then
Yeah.
we go and we cover it, but it's hard. Like we're trying to find a balance because we don't want to burn ourselves out. And I sometimes worry that in the pursuit of trying to make all 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 these people happy in terms of making sure we give content and everyone's shows are being represented on our shows, that we are kind of destroying ourselves because it's
Yeah, you
so
burn out.
much work.
Yeah.
But it's also really fun work, and we're pretty
Yeah.
blessed that's
Yeah.
that's our biggest hardship.
Yeah. But it is a lot. You don't want to burn yourself out because you want to be,
Yeah, so far so
give,
good. We're
so
okay.
far. It's just,
But
they're
it's
going to add
rough.
in when they do run three housewives at a time. I remember, I imagine that's pretty hard because sometimes you'll just have one at a time.
Yeah, it gets hard with there are certain shows that are just like harder, just the way that they're edited. Certain shows have lots of micro scenes, like
Mm.
and you don't you start writing notes and you don't know, is this like a full scene, and it turns out it's just like a 1 second scene, and
Yeah.
it can be
Yeah.
very rigorous. Yeah,
Because I do a lot of that with the 90-day stuff. I will put on the episode one time through just because if it's, especially if it's a 2 hour 90-day show, which they do to us sometimes, I'm like, I can't sit here
it's a
and
lot,
then 2 hours will take me four because I won't know what's important.
right?
Nothing, by the way, none of it's important,
None of it.
but just like, I don't want to like take notes and it was just like a one-off scene. That happens to me all the freaking time too. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
I thought this is going to be great. They're roller skating, but no, it was like a interstitial.
it was an interstitial.
Yeah.
And so like Summer House is like that a lot. Summer House and Below Deck can really be rigorous like that in terms of like you think it's an important scene and then it's just like a throwaway. Um, but yeah, it's hard. It's really hard to you want to honor what people want to hear from, and it's because you want to make them happy, and also like
Yeah.
that's good for our numbers too. If you're
Yeah.
providing content for shows that people are watching, but now it's like, for instance, people are saying, oh, you should do Vanderpump Villa, and it's like, oh, but it's like it's a whole other show, and it's like I think it's
Have you
hard.
watched it? Have you even I haven't watched it.
I started watching it. I literally only am in like a minute into it, and it's so ridiculous. It's like it
Yeah.
doesn't. It's ridiculous,
Okay.
but I don't know if it's gonna be actually any good.
Yeah. Well, I think that we all kind of had medium hopes for the Valley, and that's turned out to be great. So,
Valley, wow,
yeah, I think
wow,
it's
it's so
good.
good. Yeah,
Yeah. I was like, I was thinking, no, this is going to be dumb. But right when it came on, I was like, well,
out of the
Jackson's still
gates, it was good.
Jackson, and it was out of the gate. And then we've got Jesse, who they're trying to make into an alcoholic right away. I like it
Good.
when they label him right away. Yeah.
They should, because he's awful. He
He's
is
real bad.
awful.
The backhand this week when his wife was talking and
Wow,
he put his hand
so
up.
bad.
It's a little bit Tom Girardi-esque, right? Like, Erica, I'm
Very.
speaking.
It is very much so. Very much so.
Oh, oh. Now you guys also were doing back in the day when we talked, Winter is Crappening about Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
How did you put out like every Game of Thrones season for that, or just like a few towards the end?
No, we only did at the end for the last season of Game of Thrones because I hadn't been watching it. And then I finally decided to binge because I wanted to be there for the last season. So then,
Yeah.
since I was now caught up and I knew Game of Thrones, we decided we would do some Game of Thrones coverage because it's kind of funny. It's a different type of show for us.
Mm,
We also knew we could reach a new audience with it.
right.
It's really important for us to keep growing, and also for people to see that we can do beyond Bravo. Like we really view ourselves as a comedy podcast through the lens of TV and specifically Bravo, but we can really recap and have fun with all sorts of different shows. And so that was a really fun experiment for us, especially because all the other Game of Thrones recaps are very serious, very, very serious. And we're just like, she's too bad. So, and then we brought it back for House of the Dragon. And then we literally just did a preview for the House of the Dragon. We recapped the trailer for House of the Dragon season 2. So
Yeah.
we are going to bring it back with that season as well. And it's really fun It's fun to apply like the Watch What Crappens voice
Yeah.
to fantasy, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've never watched one episode of Game of Thrones. I was just like, are there people having sex with dragons? Like, what's happening on this show? I've never.
Sometimes it feels like that. It's really good. It's a really good
I was
show.
told nobody had sex with the dragon, but somebody did give birth to a dragon.
There was yes, and I remember when that episode first aired. It was season one, and I remember I was at home at my parents' house, and I was in my bedroom. And my parents were watching it, and I could just, it was so loud, and I just heard all these strange noises, and then I heard my mom say, "So she gave birth to a dragon? This show is weird."
Your mom's right. Your mom is right. This podcast is sponsored by Greenlight. When you're a parent, you'll have your fair share of big talks with your kids, and one of those big talks should involve money, and Greenlight can help with that. Greenlight is a debit card and a money app made for families. You can send your kids instant money transfers, get real-time notifications of their spending, manage their chores, and automate allowance. You can set up recurring or one-time chores. In our house, the way we did it, we set them up weekly, so they would get paid on the next Sunday for what they had done that week. It was really great because you could see their progress, or if they were just totally slacking on a chore, then they could see that they didn't get their $5 that week or whatever it was. And your kids are building financial literacy and independence by learning to earn, save, and spend wisely. The Greenlight app also comes with an in-app financial literacy game called Level Up. You know, kids love a game on their phone. That helps kids build money confidence through videos, bite-sized challenges, mini games, and more. Millions of parents and kids use Greenlight to learn how to make responsible financial choices. So stop putting off the money talk and start putting your kids on the right path. Sign up for Greenlight today and get your first month free at greenlight.com/pinkshade. That's greenlight.com/pinkshade to try Greenlight for free. Greenlight.com/pinkshade. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you're a fan of drama. But meltdowns, tantrums, and food fights at your kitchen table, that's where I draw the line. Let Little Spoon eliminate mealtime drama for you and your family. Little Spoon delivers fresh, healthy meals and snacks that your kid is going to love for every eating stage. Okay, guys, they have the baby blends. These are little blendable things. The first time you're feeding the baby the food, they're so cute, and they taste it, and their little faces are so happy. That's when they're starting solids, okay? Then you have the biteables. These are transition to table early finger foods. Then you have the plates. These are the toddler and big kid meals that are free of junk and taste amazing. Even the pickiest eaters will love them. They've got the hidden veggie mac and cheese. They've got the chicken nuggets, and adventurous eaters will like pot stickers, gnocchi, and more. There's smoothies. That's what my little nephew James loved. He loved the smoothies. This is healthy snack time with organic smoothies in the form of convenient pouches. God, I wish they had those pouches when my kids were little. My nephew liked the strawberry banana shake. They also have these take on an old classic, which are called lunchers. These are build-it-yourself lunches like easy cheesy pizza and chicken dunkers. You guys are protein packed. The best thing is it comes to your door, you pop it in the fridge or the freezer, and then when you get to that witching hour and things are going crazy in your house, you pull it right out and you've got either a snack or a meal ready to go. Comes right to your door and you love it. So simplify your kiddos' mealtime with 30% off your first order. Go to littlespoon.com/pinkshade and enter our code pinkshade at checkout to get 30% off your first order. That's littlespoon.com/pinkshade to get 30% off your order.
Yeah.
Another thing we said that was interesting that I think has changed for you guys, because you were saying at the time you got no screeners.
No
And
screeners.
now you guys get screeners. Ronnie claims that you guys have to beg for them, but I think they should be grateful that they're giving you screeners.
It was so funny to hear that. I forgot that there was a time where we only got the Dallas screener. I remember I said that on the show.
Yeah.
Now actually Bravo is they're so chill. They've been giving us a ton of screeners. They are it's every now and then there'll be a show that they're not allowed to, because you know that there's some weird corporate mandate. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why is this the show? Why is this the show that we have
Yeah.
to be like, seriously, like we have to like really twist an arm to get a screener for? But honestly, they've really come around to understanding, I think, the role of podcasts in the Bravo content ecosystem, and it's been really actually very helpful to us for putting together our shows.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you were saying like you guys have to record a lot at the beginning of the week of whatever was happening at that time. Maybe something was on
Mhm.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, so you're heavy at the beginning of the week. Um, and then you were saying that you wanted to cover Mexican dynasties, but you didn't. And then I was like, I thought maybe they did cover Mexican dynasties.
We did like one or two episodes, maybe even three, but
Yeah.
like that was another time where there was a surge of content. And what happens is that you have all these shows, and a lot of times it's really hard to sometimes cover the small shows or the shows that we love. Like Ronnie and I both love Top Chef.
Mm,
We're not recapping it this year, largely because Padma's not on there anymore, and that was like
mm.
our that was where we had all our fun, was pretending to be Padma. But like even when Padma was on, it was like that was our absolute favorite show to do. But sometimes we couldn't do it because maybe it wouldn't, like, Top Chef doesn't get as high numbers as other shows, or like if
Yeah.
we do that, then we have to not cover another show, and if we don't cover that show, then it's like our inboxes are full of people, and it becomes like that balance of like doing what we want to do and how we want to have fun as podcasters versus also not wanting to have like hate mail. No one was giving hate
Right.
mail, but
No.
it's like, oh my God, it's another email. Like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And I'm like, sometimes it's just easier to say, okay, let's put what we want to do to the side, and like, let's give the people what they want.
Yeah. Yeah, I do know. I get it. Um, Also, I forgot about, we talked about this. I forgot about Bravo Home channel with Get a Room
Yeah.
with Carson and Tom. Remember how great that show
That show
was?
was so good, and I still back what I said, which is that I hope they bring it back. They do,
Yeah.
like, those two guys have such a carefree, easy dynamic, great
Yeah.
banter. I love what they did. That show was excellent.
It was so good. And I've completely forgotten about it till I listened back and I was like, oh my gosh. I said on the thing, I was like, I would just watch them riding around in a car. I was like,
Yeah.
they were like so fun together.
Yeah, that show is wonderful. I don't know why I don't know what was going on during that period of Bravo when they were doing the Bravo home thing. I think there was like
Yeah.
one show that got like a little bit of traction, the Backyard Envy, I think. Was that
Yes.
what it was called, which was neat, but I think Get a Room with Carson and Tom was that was it. Like that was a great show. I would love if they brought back a lot of their design shows. I loved
I
Million
know.
Dollar Designers back in or Decorators, Million Dollar Decorators.
Yes. Was that Martin,
Martin Lawrence Ballard.
was it
That
Ballard?
was
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
fantastic show. I also really enjoyed Top Design. The first season was like a little wonky, but season two was great. I really loved that, and I feel like actually that's a show that would maybe do really well now. In
Yeah.
2024, I think that like a lot of people love watching those architectural digest videos.
Yes, I
Um,
do.
the world of Pinterest has flourished since the world of Top Design. So I think that people may be more open to like a show like that. HGTV is so much more of a thing than it was in
Mhm.
2007
Mhm.
or whenever that show's on. So I would love Top Design to come back.
Gosh. Who could we talk to?
I
Who do
know.
we
Well, that's why I'm trying
Yeah.
to speak it into the universe now.
Oh, okay. Okay. Um, so we talked about also about your note writing process and how you're so um particular about the timeline and how like if
Yeah.
Ronnie skips ahead, you're like, wait, you forgot this line was here. And I think you're still that way because I think your episodes are very meticulous on the timeline. I don't think you guys skip ahead or forget anything hardly ever.
We have yeah, it's gotten like we are very meticulous. That's why some of our episodes are just getting so long because we're just kind of
Yeah.
talking about every single little thing. Like we have somehow gotten worse at editing ourselves. You would think that's something you'd get better at as you go along. But sometimes we'll do a nice 1 hour episode. We did
Yeah.
Summer House coming out tomorrow. That's gonna be, I think that's just a nice clean 1 hour, which is
Mm,
amazing because it's Summer House.
amazing. Yeah.
So yeah, I think part of it also is like we just are a little bit more aligned in terms of, I think, like understanding where we each of us are in the documents and all that stuff. So that's really helpful.
It's interesting that you both take notes on the same show because when I had a partner, we would split. Like, I'm going to do Love After Lockup. You're going to do 90 Day.
We've started to split it up actually a little bit because we're like,
Yeah.
why are we doing this? So sometimes Ronnie will do a show, sometimes I'll do a show, sometimes he'll do the first half, I'll do the second half, and then sometimes we
Mm,
still just do our own notes. So that is like really that has helped a lot, like
yeah.
a lot. So, but and that's also when we have the same document to work off of. That's another way that we stay more in sync
Yes. Yes.
with our notes and if he skips ahead, I know where in the document he skipped ahead to, as opposed to me
Yeah.
having to like coordinate with my own notes.
Yeah. We do a lot because the shows that we cover do a lot of like couples, right? It's like 90
Hmm.
Day or Love After Lockup. It's couples. So it's very easy if I have Kimberly of Date with Dateline coming in with me to do notes. I'll be like, okay, you get these three couples. I'll do these three couples.
That's
And that
nice.
makes it easy, but that's not the case on our housewife shows. You got to go scene by scene. You can't go person by person.
Yeah, it's notes are it notes are the hardest part. You know,
I agree.
the talking is there's sometimes where like we sit down and I'm like, "Oh my God, we have so much to get through today." But like ultimately it's fun and it's always fun to be joking with Ronnie and like we always have fun on the air. The hard part is when you have to sit down and you're just like typing and typing and typing and typing and typing and
Yes, yes.
rewinding and typing and rewinding and typing. It's
Yeah,
it's hard.
Jake Anthony, he takes notes in shorthand like a old-timey
Wow.
secretary. He takes all his notes in shorthand.
Wow. I don't even know. I am very impressed by that.
Aren't you impressed? I was like, why don't you just tippity type it on your laptop while you're watching TV? He goes, it's so much easier for me to write it in shorthand. I was like, what are you, a 1950s secretary on Mad Men with your shorthand?
It must be great to
Crazy?
know shorthand. It'd be great to
Yeah.
learn stenography and to have one of those machines. I don't even
Yes.
know how those machines work. I have no idea.
I don't either. It's only got like 11 keys on it.
Yeah, and they're just like tap 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 tap. That probably would be the best. That would
Yes,
be
my cousin is a court reporter. Maybe she could teach me her
really.
ways. Yeah.
That would honestly, it probably would. Could you imagine? That would be a game changing situation. Just like,
Yeah. Why don't we come up with that? We'll sell next year at Podcast Movement Conference. We'll sell a course, stenography for podcasting.
that I would take it.
TM
Yeah,
trademark. Mary Payne and Ben.
trademark
Don't
it.
no don't take it. It's ours. So okay. So you also said at that time that Real Housewives of New York. Now that's Real Housewives of New York OG is
OG.
your favorite show to watch. Favorite shows to recap. Now RIP. It's gone.
Yeah.
Were you feeling similar love with the new cast? I mean,
No.
it's
No.
impossible to
No.
replicate that old cast. Impossible.
It's not even that I was like I don't feel the similar love, but I really like it as its own thing. It's like I don't feel the love, and I honestly don't like it very much. I think Jessel is a standout. I love Jessel. I think
Yeah.
Jenna is fascinating in that she's just a totally different type of Real Housewife.
Yes.
But I find Erin is she's sort of like a blah, like she's not great. Sai is actually unpleasant to watch. I find that
Agree.
Bree is has moments where I find her to be very appealing and interesting,
Hmm.
but she has a lot of moments where I find her to be kind of irritating in this like yeah, let's put up my ass. What? You're like it's like exhausting. It's like the same thing. It's very exhausting. And Uba, like I like Uba, but like
She
there's
didn't
something
share anything.
inaccessible.
She had a whole boyfriend that whole time.
Yeah, there's something a little inaccessible about her. She's like, "Aren't I wacky? I took a can of coconut milk." But I think really, I think this group could be really good. But I think that my issue with the new Real Housewives of New York is that Bravo, I think, tried to steer the ship away, obviously, from the Ramona Singersness of the original, right? Like,
Yes,
which
of
is just
course.
like problematic, older white lady, like the ills of our society, right? Tried to
Right.
steer away from that, and then gave us this show, which was trying to be more like, look at these fabulous women that you just want to hang out with. They're involved in fashion and more fashion. They're fabulous. They know about
Yeah.
restaurants, they know
Hmm.
about Instagram, and they know fabulous people. And it's like, I don't know.
Oh my God, so
I
funny.
just give me some delusion. Like I want I kind of want like old deluded rich women from the Upper East Side still, you know? It doesn't have to be Ramona, but like
Right.
I don't need to I don't need to feel like, wow, I'm like in size brownstone right now. Like I'm so chic.
I feel like with the Ramona of it all, it doesn't have to be her necessarily, but I did enjoy her being awful to the staff on the Ultimate Girls Trip.
Yeah. I
I
think
mean, it's
Ramona
just it's her
is a
brand.
terrible person. She's a terrible
Yeah.
person. And the one thing that's happened since our last since 2019 is that we have learned the perils of giving terrible people platforms in this world, which is one of the reasons why there has been sort of like a shift happening on Bravo. We don't want to give people like Ramona or Vicky Gunvalson platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good that we're not giving platforms. But we also have to reconcile with this genre of we are watching shows about often spoiled, deluded, sheltered people. And how did
Yeah.
these people, like, what's it like for these people to live? Like, how did they get through life? Like, that's what the show is built off of. Like, what is it like behind the gated community, behind the gates of Orange County, and watching them just like casually spending thousands of dollars here and berating someone there. So we're not trying to be friends with these people. We're not trying to
Right.
embrace them. We're seeing like, how does this totally dysfunctional person exist in our society? And so while I think we shouldn't have terrible people shouldn't have platforms, I think that we can't fully neuter our shows because of that.
Yeah. Because they do exist. These people do exist in the
Yeah,
world.
and I think
Yeah.
that it's sometimes it's also good to make sure we see these people being terrible so we can make fun of them and, you know, tell ourselves how not to act.
Also, don't act that way. Yes.
Don't act that way.
You did say also that you didn't like recapping Married to Medicine because you didn't like to watch Quad and Dr. Gregory fighting. Now, I've never been a big fan of Married to Medicine. I mean, I've watched it here and there, but I do know that they're divorced now, right?
Yes. So Marriage Medicine is such an interesting show because it's by and large a really good show.
Hmm.
But I
Everybody loves that
find,
show.
yeah, and there's like some great casting. I mean, Dr. Heavenly,
Mm.
Simone, Quad, Toya, Dr. Jackie, like these are great. Like they are like these are great reality stars. This is a great cast. When Mariah was on it, Mariah was awful, but she was great.
Hmm.
But my issue with the show has actually become that it sort of does the same thing every year. And given that all
Hmm.
these shows pretty much do that, like this one, it's always a couple's trip to some sandy place where they sort of do a weird kind of couples therapy thing. And I don't know, like I feel like the show always starts off really strongly and then kind of peters out over the course of the season. So this season, I actually haven't finished it. I loved the first half of this season. I thought it was great. I thought it was the best season they've had in years.
And they've had, and Phaedra was on, right?
Phaedra was on, yeah, but
Yeah.
we just
So,
didn't. I think we recapped a few episodes, but again, it's like it was like a high traffic time for us. You know, we have like
yeah.
these Real Housewives shows. We have like Vanderpump Rules. It's hard to fit
Did you
everyone in.
guys extensively cover any of the other Real Housewives? Dubai notwithstanding, I didn't even watch that one. But the ones, the Australian ones and all that, did you ever cover any of those as like a one off?
We used to cover Melrose. I'm not Melrose. Melbourne,
Hmm.
as like we did like a weekly check-in with that. Like we did,
Really?
we fully covered I think the first three seasons because those were they put them on Bravo. We
Yeah.
also did Cheshire. I think the first season of Cheshire. Um, we also did Auckland. Was it Auckland? The one in New Zealand, Real Housewives of
Wow.
Auckland. That was actually great. Although that one had a very dark turn. Really, a really tough episode in the middle. That was like someone used the N word and it was a thing.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah. And we even actually I think like last year or something, Bravo randomly started airing the Real Housewives of Durban, and so we did an episode of that.
Where's that? What country?
South Africa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So
Wow.
we've definitely gone international. We never did Toronto, we never did Vancouver, and we never did
You're telling
Sydney.
me shows I didn't even know existed. I didn't know some of these shows existed. I had no idea.
Yeah. Hmm.
Wow. Um, you also said that the most challenging voice you've ever done was Candy
Yeah.
for obvious reasons, but have you found anybody since then that has been more challenging than Candy?
Let's see. Well, I stopped doing Candy's voice because I felt like the joke was always that like Candy's voice was like high and then low, whatever, and it was like always
Yes.
so hard. And so I had this whole thing, this voice I would do that go high and low, whatever. But like for a while, I think everyone who listened to the podcast knew that that was the joke about it. But I think what happened is that people started to come in, and if you don't know the context of it, it actually sounds improper and it sounds problematic because it sounds like I'm trying to do like just like black accent, not black accent, but like a black voice, and I'm a white man.
Yeah.
And at a certain
Yeah.
point, it's like you know what, this is not really appropriate anymore. Like I've made the joke. The joke has been made. I've
Yeah.
stated it. Let's not let's retire this. But
Okay.
in terms of like there are a lot of really strange hard voices. Let's see, who are some people? Just going down like the New Yorker women in New York, I've had a pretty easy time with. People on Dallas, I feel like I had an easy time with. Um, Potomac, maybe Potomac has actually some really fun voices to do on there. Those are all very doable. I know there's someone who is like very, very difficult for me. And
Is it anybody on Beverly Hills?
let's see. So Beverly Hills has Sutton, it has Kyle, it has. There's got to be someone that I definitely struggle with. I'm just like blanking right now. Like Jax. I don't have a good voice for Jax actually. I don't have a
I'm
voice for
trying to think. Does
Jax.
Jax have a? He just
Sort of has like a little bit of
duh.
Michigan-y, Michigander kind of voice.
You know what I was thinking about today about Sandoval, because there's so many different ways to do Sandoval. Like the way you guys do it's a little like, dude, and the way AB Phillips does it is like he's a petulant teenager with braces. She says like, "God, mom," that she does him like that, which is so different but so funny. And somebody else. Okay, so I went to Bravo Radio Indie Theater in New York,
Hmm.
and it was Scandival was the last episode, is what they did, and Cheyenne Jackson played Tom Sandoval. Like, I mean,
Mm.
Tom Sandoval could lay down and die now. I mean, it's like how perfect.
Yeah.
But he just did it so like emo, like you just don't know, man. There's just, and I was thinking, there's three really different ways to do some Tom Sandoval, and they're
What
all
a complex
correct.
what a complex man. You know what? Vicky
Complex.
Gumbelson is a hard one for me, by the way. Vicky Gumbelson, I've never been able to do her voice properly.
It's all in the
I sort
nose,
of
right?
yeah, I do sort of like this voice like this, which is like actually just me kind of impersonating Ronnie. Sometimes that's what happens. Sometimes I
It's
just do
also a little bit
Ronnie's.
like Margaret Joseph's, right? They're both kind of up in that nose.
Right, but like Michael Josephs, I can do. Like I somehow can like get there. But like with Vicky, it's like she has this, Midwestern Chicago accent. It's not really Northern Midwest, right? That's more Minnesota. And she's like, I try to do it, but like it's hard. And then when she screams, her voice changes. And
She
I
screams
think
a
it's,
lot.
I think, I think, I think Vicky is probably the hardest one outside of Candy.
It's another thing I thought of the other day, just out of the blue, kind of revisiting this. I was thinking about when we were first able to do memojis on our phone, and Kelly Dodd sent that whole thing to Vicky as a
Yes,
pig.
yes. Kelly
Wow.
Dodd.
Hmm. She'll
Wow,
never be on TV again, I don't think. Well, they send her on a girls trip, man. That'll be a nightmare.
they should.
um, so then we also relived my stalking of you in DC after the
Yes.
show, and you didn't enjoy it, but you did come on, so it worked.
No, I think I just at that moment. I remember specifically we were walking to that bar. I remember that
Hmm.
bar. It was after the 9:30 club, and you're like, "Hi,
Yeah,
I'm Mary Payne," and I was like, "Whoa, whoa!" But I'm glad you said hi because now I know Mary Payne. I know Mary Payne Gilbert, and that's to know you is to love you, right? Isn't that the
that's right.
expression?
Well, sure. You guys have no choice
You
now. I'm
hustled. You
just
were
like,
hustling. You were a big hustler in the beginning there. You were like, I'm starting my podcast, and you were knocking on all the doors, and you did what you
yeah,
had to do. You know?
I did. I did. You know what I found when I was doing that podcast was if my producer would reach out to somebody like the guy that did the Shrink Next Door or like a big podcast like that, if, New York Times, backed podcast, Bloomberg and all this, they wouldn't reply. But if I reached out myself from like my personal email, people would always reply.
Yeah.
So I was like, you just stop writing them and let me write them. And because it's not coming from like an official email, it's just coming from mine. And somehow that really worked. And I don't know
Hmm.
why, if it's because people like felt bad saying no to my face. They didn't care if they didn't like reply to a producer.
Right.
But that's what sometimes people are like, oh, how do you get guests and stuff? I go, you just literally bug them
Just
until they
gotta
say
bug
yes.
them.
Just got
Yeah.
to bug
Well,
them. Yeah,
what's nice about our podcast is that we actually really don't often have guests at all, which
I
means we don't
know.
have to do that whole rigmarole. Um, but like when it comes to Golden Crappies, oh, what a nightmare. I'm so
So
glad
fun.
no, the crappies are great, but like when you have to like, it's like herding cats, just like trying to get people to show up at a place. So, like for the podcast that have to book guests every single week,
Hmm.
like my hat is off to you because that is hard work.
It is because you can also, somebody could drop out and you're like, okay, an episode has to go out tomorrow. And now
Solo
I have no
time.
one. And no, I cannot. I've only done solo like one time ever. It's just, that's impossible. It's so hard for me because I feel, first of all, I have to turn the video off, right? Because I can't be looking at myself talking to myself because then I get distracted. And then if I'm just talking and I'm looking around, then it's not for me. I have to have somebody to talk to.
I always think that I couldn't do a solo podcast, but then I just am like, sometimes I'll be doing, talking like this, and I'm like, I just monologued for 2 minutes straight. I just talked. I just talked and talked and talked and talked and talked. I could definitely, I could definitely do it solo. I'm barely letting someone else have a word in edgewise.
That's not true, but I think that both you and Ronnie would be fine if you ever were like at the last minute had to do a solo. I think you'd be great.
He's done a few solo episodes. What they're
Oh
like
yeah.
appendix. He will. He is wild. He will when he has to do a solo episode. Like he does like a whole thing. He creates like an alter ego named Nancy DeBobo, and
Oh
he like interviews
yes.
himself. It's wild what he does. I'm impressed.
God, you guys are both so talented.
Thank you.
So we also talked about um the listeners, how they're right in your ears, right? So if you see a
Yeah.
movie, it's this way, a TV show, it's this way, the podcast is different. And we had a listener meet up this weekend in LA. And it is interesting that what the listeners will tell you is, I feel like I know you, but you don't know me.
Right.
And I'll say, yeah, I get it because I feel that way. And I said this in 2019. I'll still say it now. I feel that way. And my go-to is always Karen Kilgariff. I'm always like, I feel like Karen Kilgariff is my best friend. She doesn't know me. I can't get her team to even answer an email to do an interview.
You know,
Like, I,
I
I,
just saw her last month at the iHeart Awards. And you know what she told me?
she
I
wanted to
think
come on
Mary
my
Payne is my best friend.
see, see. Yeah, I asked
No,
Ronnie about.
I didn't talk to her at all.
Well, I asked Ronnie about when you guys. I was like, "Are you friends with her now? Can you put me in touch?" And Ronnie goes, "No, we didn't
No,
speak to her. We
no.
do know Georgia, but we didn't talk to her."
Yeah, we didn't talk.
Um,
Not
so,
for any
but
sort of
I
beef.
feel
We just
like
didn't talk.
no, you didn't have a fight. No. But that's
I
how I feel about
wish.
people being in my ears. I feel like I know them.
I feel that way too. I don't remember. Did I say this on the podcast about how I listen to podcasts too? So my thing is this: after we're done, like the only podcasts I listen to basically are board game podcasts. I do not
Hmm.
listen to any pop culture podcasts
Yeah.
because I don't know, we talk about it for hours and hours and hours, and when we're done recording, I kind of like to dive into my hobbies, which is
You're
these
right.
days it's board gaming, or now I'm like picking up sewing. And so
And
for
cooking.
me,
You've
and
got,
cooking, and
yeah.
cooking. And so for me, I really enjoy podcasts that like help me learn more about the hobby and like whatever
Mm.
hobby, or like I'll learn about new games that are out, or people's experiences playing games, or I'll learn about new cookbooks or things like that. So I love using podcasts for that. So I don't necessarily need to go to a podcast to just dive deeper into something I just spent 3 hours talking about.
Yeah. You're right.
And it's no
Right.
disrespect, to our community. It's like okay, it's like I'm off work in a certain way. It's like it's my release.
Yeah.
And so what I'm trying to say here is that so I listen to these like board game podcasts, and I listen to them week in, week out, and they talk about their games they play, and I'm like, oh, and I feel like I'm their friend. I'm like,
Yes.
I'm like, like if I'm in their same city, I'm like, we're gonna play a board game together, right? Like that's gonna happen, right?
They
Is
they
it not
also
gonna happen?
think they also, if they knew that you listened, they'd probably be thrilled and want you to come on their podcast.
You
You know?
know, I'd like to think that, but the board game community is a whole other community. I'm no, you know, I'm, no one cares that I have Watch What Crappens in the board game community. You know,
I bet there's some Housewives crossover there, don't you think?
there are a few small Housewives crossovers, but it's not huge. But you know, I do have a side board game podcast, and you know, I have a little bit of credibility from that in the board game community, but it's
Would
not
you
like
have
Watch
it
What Crappens.
currently a side board game podcast?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
What's it
I
called?
joined, it's called Game Brain. It's a podcast that I joined. It's not one that I started.
Okay.
There was like a game group that I joined a few years ago. Maybe since I think it actually was another thing that happened since
You
2019.
you mentioned the Game Brain podcast as one that you listened to in
Oh,
2019. Yeah.
well, guess what? Not I guess at that point I was a listener, and
Yeah.
then I managed to weasel my way into their group and then become one of the co-hosts of that podcast. So
Wow.
I had my Saltburn moment with Game Brain.
I didn't see Saltburn because once Matt told me about some of the scenes, I was like, I don't think that's for me.
It's not great, to be honest, but
I
you
think
know the
there's some
concept is
things there.
someone who ascends socially. So
Okay.
anyway, yeah, so I have that little side podcast. It's like just a fun side gig, you
That
know.
is fun.
Anyway, the point is this: I know what it's like. I know what it's like to feel like the person that you're listening to week in, week out is actually
Yeah.
someone that you are connected to, and that like you start to imagine, like, if only I got to actually talk with them, they would see that
Yeah.
we're very similar, and we'd
Yeah.
probably become friends.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I know. I have the same thoughts about lots of podcasters, but another topic that we covered was the fans and listeners of Crappens and how before your live shows they'll be like the meetup's at 2 and then the show's at 8 and then by 9 people are almost throwing up in the aisles. People are so wild at those shows and they are
They
screaming out
are.
like
It's
do
great.
Ramona and all this. Um, and I will say it used to be because you guys used to post your live shows, as your episode, which was so fun. Especially if you've been to one, you can really see because you guys usually sit behind a table and you have props, and it's very fun. But it used to be the audio was so hard to listen to because of the people screaming. But somehow you
Yeah.
guys figured that out and blocked out the audience.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that because that's
Yeah,
always been an issue. I think part of it is that maybe the venues have actually improved in terms of knowing how to record podcasts.
yes,
Perhaps, maybe.
to not
I'm
get
not
the whole
sure.
room just to get the audio.
I think
Yeah,
in the beginning, you know, when we first started touring, like really no, there were not many podcasts that were touring. Like there were podcasts that were
no,
doing live shows. I'm not sure how many podcasts were doing what we were doing. I'm not saying we
yeah,
were like the only ones. Like we invented touring, but like I don't, in 2017 when we were going to like rock clubs to do podcasts, or in
yeah,
2000 early 2018 going to like the Bowery Ballroom, like that was like not a thing at that time.
yeah.
And so you'd have these audio guys who were like, "Oh, you're a podcast man? Like, okay, like whatever." And they would just like record shitty audio, not because they were bad at it, but I think that they just were like used to dealing with like a band, and a
Yeah, they
band
also
has
didn't
very
understand
different
kind of what it
requirements.
was. Yeah,
But now I think
interesting.
maybe they have more experience. Maybe we have more experience. Maybe equipment's gotten better for recording this shit. I have no idea, but I'm really happy to hear that the audio is a little bit better for you. Because yeah, people are wild at our shows, and it's great. Like I love the fact that if you come to a Crappens show,
Yeah,
it is like full energy from everyone.
yeah.
It's like high energy. It's not like a polite affair where people are sort of like smiling and sitting nicely. People are engaged and loud, and it's the best.
It's really great. It's like being at a Council Luann show. People are just crazy. People are just crazy. But it's because they're such big fans and they're like so excited. But you did at that time, and I bet you don't do this anymore. But when I saw you at early 2019 after the DC show, when I stalked you about coming on this podcast,
Yeah,
my other podcast, you guys were like going out to the bars afterwards. But I don't think you could do that now.
we
I
don't
think
do
you'd
it
be
anymore.
mobbed. Yeah, I think you'd be
We
mobbed.
well, we used to do it like after every show, people be like, "Where's the after party?" And we felt like if we didn't do it, like we'd be letting everyone down,
Yeah.
and that like people would get angry at us, and that people would start writing things on Reddit like they're too
Oh
big
yeah.
for their britches. Da, 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 da. We got like really, so we were always like very like we wanted to. It was like fun for us. Fun. You go out, we're like, oh my god. You walk in the bar, people cheer, and then
Yeah.
everyone talks to you, and it was so fun. It wasn't like we just did it purely because we were afraid of getting in trouble, but there was also a sense like there were some days where I would be like, I'm just really exhausted. It's like I just got off work. I just want to go to the hotel
Yeah. You
and
just got
like
off
go
the
to sleep.
stage and like being on.
And it's like it's like I don't always want to just step into a room with a lot of people and people are, forcing shots on you and everything. And I was like, I
Mm.
have to do this. I have to do this. Otherwise, like they're gonna turn on us. And I think one thing is that first of all, after the pandemic kind of I think it ended that expectation, because it was still like for a little while there, it was like just the idea of being in a room with like 150
Yeah.
people in close
Yeah.
quarters was like a little uncomfortable anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I've been doing a lot of work on myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've been going. I started to. Since I saw you last, I started taking therapy, and I have. We're going to therapy, and I learned that it's actually like really totally okay to
Mm-hmm.
set a personal boundary where you say, if I don't want to go out,
Yeah.
I don't have to go out, and people I think will respect me for my decision for being true to myself of what I want in that moment. And it's not a disrespect to anyone. It's just more like I gotta. I'm dead. I just need to go back to the hotel. And I think it's
Yeah. It's
been really
okay to
great.
say no. Yeah. It's okay to say
It's
no.
it's
Yeah.
okay to
It's
say,
okay.
and we still go out. We still do after parties and stuff. But it's been really wonderful just having a sense of like it's okay. You don't have to do everything for everyone. Like you can say, hey, this is not for me tonight. And like no one is going to hold it against you and everyone will
No.
totally support.
No, some of those shows I imagine take a lot out of you because you're doing, you're on stage, you're performing, you're doing all these voices and a lot of physical stuff. And then, yeah, I think that would be rough. And then you got to go out and still be on,
And
you know?
like a lot of times we've traveled, we've just flown in that
Yes.
morning. You
Yeah.
got to take these notes. You got to show up for sound check. Got to do a VIP meet and greet, which is already
Mm.
very much like you're saying hello to like 80 people. You're standing there for about an hour, and then you've got to like pack up everything. You got to get this. You got to close out with the venue. You got to sign papers, and then like that tomorrow you got to catch a flight. You got to do it
And do
all
it
over
again.
again.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
like the idea of like, oh, and now got to go to a bar where there's gonna be like a lot of drunk people who are like, like I would say that like 99% of people at the after party are just like awesome. They're just
Hmm.
so awesome and so
Yeah.
cool. Actually, 100% of the people are awesome, but there's always like one or two people that are wasted, and then they just follow you around, and then they like spit in your face, like not like angrily. They're like, "Hey, what's going on?" And like all this stuff spews out of their mouth onto your face. They interrupt and they tell the same story 5 times over. Like,
Hmm.
can I just say something? Andy Cohen, what's up with Andy Cohen? And it's like I gotta go home.
Yeah. I got to go. I got to go. Yeah. Somebody help me. Um, okay. That literally, there was like 4 more bullet points about low tolerance for sloppy drunk people, but we covered it.
Well, I mean,
Um,
that's the
yeah.
thing that I have. That's the thing. It's like
You still
when
have it
you
since 2019. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, what's been great though is I've realized I don't have to put myself in that situation,
Yeah.
because it's one thing when you just like go out and you're like getting drunk or whatever, and then like someone's sloppy there, but you're kind of sloppy too. But when you've just gotten off work and someone is like way farther ahead of you and
They're
you're
8 hours ahead of
exhausted,
you. Yeah.
you're just
Yeah.
like, I'm like, girl, I can't do this with you right now. I can't. I want to go home. I want to watch a board game video right now.
Oh. What I was trying to remember what was the start of the Is Ariana Mad at Us song?
The start of it was there was some tweet that she
Oh,
responded to.
okay.
Someone tweeted at her and at us, and then she responded, and we couldn't tell if she was mad at us or not. And I was
Yes.
bored, and I made like a jingle on GarageBand where I went, "Is
Yeah.
Ariana mad at us? Is Ariana mad at us?" And I think I played it literally only like 2 or 3 times ever. And it like that is a thing
Well,
that just has
I
lingered.
know it. I don't, you've had to have played it more than that because it's in my
Yeah.
brain.
But it's
Yeah.
definitely considering that how much we will drive a certain joke into the ground and then some over the years. Like that
Yeah.
one really has not been that is not a clip that we play that often.
It's pretty good though, because given, the rise of Ariana,
Yeah.
who
So
knew?
far, I don't think she's mad at us. So I think
Okay,
it's
good.
good.
Good. Um, Bethany. Okay. So I had asked you a question in 2019 about Bethany, like, because we were talking about Bravo Lebs having a sense of humor about your
Right.
imitations of them and saying, probably Bethany wouldn't think it was funny. Plus, also you guys did it in tandem. You would do Bethany and Ronnie would do Bethany at the exact same time to show how frenetic, and then everything ends with Skinny Girl. Um, have you ever had any run-in with Bethany ever?
No, except last night in my dream. I did have a dream last night that I met her and she was like really awesome and she was funny and she got the joke and she's like, "This is really funny. This is hilarious. I love it. I love it. I love these impersonations. You guys are actually like really good at what you do." But of course, that's just a dream because I don't think Bethany would ever act like that. There was a part of
No.
me that was hoping Bethany would be at the iHeart Podcast Awards because we were actually nominated in the same category as her.
That's right. That's right. Oh my
And I was
gosh.
hoping, I was like, maybe. But no, I've never, ever, ever seen her in real life, encountered her, heard from her. The only interaction that one could possibly say that we ever had was last year when like the reality reckoning piece hit and then Andy
Uh-huh.
Cohen wrote and he posted an emoji on an Instagram video I had done and then he did like a laughing emoji on a video I
Uh-huh.
did that was I made a video that was basically mocking the reality reckoning and he did like a
Mhm.
laughter emoji and then she's like so now Andy Cohen's like laughing at this. It's like, so you're like laughing at racism because there was a podcast, some sort of like podcast called Watch What Crappens or something like that, and they posted this thing and he's laughing at it. So I was like, Bethany has mentioned us. So
That's right.
that was the closest. See, I could do a
Okay.
solo podcast. I just spoke for 5 minutes about once you asked, has Bethany ever interacted with us? And I could have just said no. And
But
instead
that
I
wouldn't
talked
be
for
as
five
good.
minutes.
That wouldn't be as good. Do you okay, remember back in 2019 you were doing the Real Housewares of Kitchen Island?
Yeah.
The animation?
Yeah.
Where does that live if people ever wanted to see
It's
it?
on YouTube.
Oh,
I just kind of fell off. I did that thing where it was so fun to do them, but then my scripts started to become a little too ambitious, and then every new episode, I would layer in more and more details into the animation, which was because I'd get so into it. But then what happens is, then the process of making them takes longer and longer, and then eventually it's like you just start putting it off because it's too much work. It's not like a fun
yeah.
thing you can just do anymore, which is a shame because I had so much fun. I think I've done about like 14 or 15 episodes and it became the other problem is that they became serialized. Originally it was just like little vignettes, but it
Yeah.
became serialized and it was like the Carol Radziwill character was run over by a car and who did it and they're trying
Wow.
to get to the bottom of it and then she was in a wheelchair and Bethany was taking care of her and then it was a whole thing. It went
I would
way
I
too
would
far.
I would recommend people looking that up. It was
Yeah, take
pretty
a look at
funny.
it, everyone.
And the podcast that you mentioned that you loved, which was Game Brain,
Yeah.
and this now you're a part of, Danny, Taylor Strucker,
Mm-hmm.
Jackie Schimmel, and
Yeah.
of course Ira Madison the third with Keep It, which of
Keep
course
it.
is also huge. I met Ira with you at Countess Luann's show.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, he would never remember me. I met him for 4 seconds, but I was always, whenever something happens with him, I'm like, ooh, I met him one time with Ben.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good old Ira.
He's killing it.
He is
Killing
killing
it.
it. Killing
Killing
it.
it.
Yeah, his show's doing very nicely, I think. I mean, he just won an award. I think he won an Ambi.
Mhm.
I think he won the Impact Award for Ambi. So congrats to Ira. Good job.
Well, what would you say has changed in podcasting as a whole in the last 5 years since we last talked? I mean, so much has changed, right?
So much has changed. I think that we've just seen a continued growth of these podcast studios and networks and consolidation of not necessarily power, but ability to circle the wagons around the industry. I
Mm-hmm.
think that I used to always tell people that if you want to start a podcast and make it successful, just start. Stop dragging your feet. Like, don't worry about the name. Just start recording. Start developing your voice. Start like building your audience, because every day that you don't do that, then other people are doing that. So I would say you just got to start recording. You got to
Yeah.
be consistent. You got to find a consistent schedule.
Yeah.
That way your audience can sort of build a routine around you. And I still believe in all those things, but I don't know if that necessarily leads to success anymore. I just feel like these, podcasting has become big business, and
Absolutely.
it's like if you want to really break through at the podcast, I think it's really hard to do it grassroots these days. I think you can still do it, but it's I think it requires so much effort. There's constantly these new podcasts, new shows coming down the pike from Spotify or Wondery or
And they're
iHeart, like,
huge shows with huge production value. Yeah.
and with celebrities a lot of times. So it's really hard to push through, and we saw it happening in 2019, but I think we've continued to move even closer to the movie studio model in terms of access and platform.
Mm.
So I think that Ronnie and I are super lucky because we were able to really grow at a time when an outsider podcast could grow, and I think it's just really hard. It's really hard to bust through these days.
But are you guys with Wondery now?
Yeah.
You are, yeah.
Hmm.
I remember when I think you guys put out just like a regular episode on the public feed and you had a Wondery logo and people
Yeah.
lost their minds. 'Cause they were like, because you hadn't announced anything about it yet. You're like, uh-oh, I guess they put the new artworok up. It's not
Well,
the
I
new
mean,
artwork, it's one little corner. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we knew the artwork was going up. We didn't think anyone would care. Like
Oh,
we were on Acast, we were on Midroll. Like
yeah.
we've moved company to company, and no one has ever said anything or cared. But Wondery, there were people like, oh my God, Wondery. But like,
No, I joined Wondery Plus because you guys are on there and My Favorite Murder was on there and now they're not.
they're
So I'm like,
not.
oh, I'm staying on it. I'm staying on it for you guys though. And
Thanks, Maribel.
Smartless is
Oh,
on there too.
Smartless.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, I see. We're not big enough to get onto Smartless. Someday we'll get on there.
You just got
We're
to
not
meet one of the
famous.
guy. You got to meet one of the guys and
We
then
have to
have
be
them have.
famous too, right? They only have famous
There's,
people on there, right?
yeah, but some famous people I've never heard of in my life. I mean, it's a famous person, but I'm like, what are they famous for? They're a brain scientist. Who cares? Yeah.
So how do I become friends with them?
So you
Let's
got
see.
to
I did it
find,
with Game Brain. I did it with Game Brain. I could do it
yeah,
with Smartless.
yeah. If you got to be friends with one of them, and then they invite you on because
I
one of them
I
has
don't.
to know you.
I'm not good at being friends with famous people. I'm like,
Mm.
there are certain gay people who are so good at becoming friends with famous people. Like they just are like, they immediately, like, famous people are like, oh my God, we love this gay person. They just like like there's certain, like, I want to be a gay guy that gets adopted by a famous person, but no
I
famous people
know.
want to adopt me. I think I'm
Danny
just
Pellegrino kind of got adopted by Andy. That was nice.
well, because Danny is so lovely. I think that the difference is that Danny is lovely, and I don't know
Well,
how lovely I am. I
you're
don't think I
also
truly am lovely.
Danny is just so he comes across so like, oh shucks, And then sometimes you'll listen to his podcast. I'm like, okay, Danny.
Yeah, no, Danny has an edge to him, which is, I think,
He does.
I love that.
But it's with such a sweet voice.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, Danny is the sort of person you always want to bring him around to something. Whereas I think that I'm just more like, I don't know. I think there's something about me that I think is not, I don't think I fit necessarily in the boxes that sometimes, like, people think of like a gay person, in the sense that,
Mm.
like, there's certain kind, like, if you're like a fabulous Yas Queen gay, like,
Yeah,
women
you
love
yes
that.
queened me earlier today.
I
You
did
yes
Yas
queened
Queen
me.
you.
Yes, and I
I
was
was
like
trying out a
trying
new
it on,
personality.
trying it on. Yeah, I was like, is this Ben? Because sometimes Ronnie will type something like that, right?
No,
It's like,
I'll throw in some yes queens on text. I'll say yes queen, but
try it
like
out.
you know like when a yes queen is coming from like within the soul, and so I think that like when you're not like that, sometimes I think that people don't know what to do with you. But you're gay, but you're not like saying yes queen.
But
I
now
don't know
you're
if I can adopt
sewing.
you.
Now you're sewing, so maybe that'll
I
help
am
out.
sewing.
Maybe a fashion.
I am sewing, so maybe that's gonna maybe that will, pun intended, move the needle for me
Love it.
in gay adoption by a celebrity.
Oh, do you think that as far as like the podcasting has changed, don't you think like the video aspect, like you guys back then in 2019 definitely weren't doing videos for everything.
Yeah.
I think you were just doing videos like for your Patreon.
Yeah, we did videos here and there. But yeah, video is a thing because we started doing video. It's fun. And also we were like, oh, theoretically we could like then repurpose this and put it onto like social media as like a
Yeah.
little clip, and then it gets people to want to watch and listen and whatever. Da, da, da. Maybe we could do something that's viral. But now we just do it. We still put up our clips and they're still fun.
Yeah.
And I actually like being able to see Ronnie's face when we record. You can sort of see, like, I can see his eyes if he gets distracted by something. Now I'm like, okay, he got a text that he needs to tend to, so maybe I'll just keep on talking right now, so that way
Mm.
he can tend to that or something like that. So it's actually just really helpful. Or if I can see that he's trying to say something, I can, like you just try not to have as many interruptions ideally. Whereas if you don't see someone you don't know, and there's a lot more crosstalk. Although I'm
Yeah.
such a big interrupter these days that nothing can stop me. Nothing can stop me from barging in.
Next thing you know, he's going to have a solo podcast called Just Ben.
Just
Just Ben.
I'll
Just
no
Ben.
Ronnie will have a solo podcast, and then I'll have a side podcast that just interrupts the solo podcast, and you have to play both at the same time.
It's very going to be very breaking edge of podcast technology. It's going
Uh-huh.
to
It's
be,
the
yeah.
next. That's what's changing podcasting, the interrupting podcast.
Mhm. Oh my God. Well, what did happen is you guys won a big award, and now for 1 year, nobody can say anything to you until next
That's
year.
right.
Somebody
That's
takes your crown.
right. Yeah. Yeah. That was honestly, it was super cool. That was like, I have, sort of going back to that idea of an outsider podcast, or even like weaving in with this idea of like, oh, I'm not famous, so I can't go on smart lists. I really, for many years, I had a complex that we were not really treated with, it's not respect. I always felt like we were respected, but I always felt like if there was like a podcast festival, no one would ever turn to us, because it's like, oh, you just recap Bravo. Like you're not like two guys wearing flannel who are like waxing on about, you know, something in Brooklyn.
Beer.
But beer or something like
Beer.
that. Like
Mm.
we just were not cool. We weren't like something you'd hear on NPR. And so
Mm.
I was always like mad that we weren't invited to shit. And then we started getting invited to shit. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I can't be mad about that anymore. It's like, but we don't win awards. People don't give us respect. I was like, okay, but now we won an award. So I don't have anything to complain about anymore, which is really hard for
What's
me.
next? What's next? Getting on smart list. That's next.
Getting on smart, that's my new thing. But to be
Yeah.
honest, what I meant this really actually in a sincere thing, which is that it actually felt really good to get recognition. It felt really
Yeah.
good after all these years to feel like, do people really like to feel like the larger podcast community, like the intelligentsia of podcasting, like we could not get an article in the New York Times to save our lives. Like we are definitely, there are going to be no think pieces about Watch What Crappens, but to know that that whoever voted on the iHeart Awards, it was not a public vote, so I don't know who it was that got to vote, but it was really cool to get that recognition from, I imagine, the industry. And
Yeah.
for me, it was actually an incredibly meaningful moment.
Yeah. I thought it was great. And I loved how you guys had to do like a runway walk at the end. It was so
Yeah, that was
funny.
fun. That
Yeah.
was great.
See, that would have
Ronnie
been the,
served such good face.
oh,
See,
he was
I was
smizing. He
crying.
was doing all the things. Yeah.
I was like, yes, queen. This is a sincere yes, queen right now.
All right. We're going to make this happen for you. You're going to become a yes queen guy. We're going to, Yes. Try it out next time you talk to Ronnie. Just start off with the yes queen and see his reaction. He'll be like, "Are you okay?"
I have to, here's the thing. Sean Hayes is not a yes queen gay, actually. So I just have to,
I don't think
right?
so.
He's not
No.
a yes queen gay. So I just have to, I just have to somehow befriend Sean Hayes through gay circles. And I
Yeah.
think then we'll be good to go.
I mean, he lives in LA. You're gay. He's
We're
gay. You
gay.
got to run it.
He's gay. I'm gay.
You got to know all the
Well,
same people, right?
we're pretty much friends now, right?
I mean, you've got those things in common.
We could do this. We could make it happen.
Yeah, I think so. If it happens, you heard it here first, everybody. You
Yeah.
heard it here first.
Yeah.
All right, tell everybody what is happening on Crappening. So bad.
I'll tell you what's happening.
Yeah.
We are doing a show for Netflix. It's a joke.
Yeah.
That's going to be a month, basically. I don't know when this is going to air, but May 3rd, that's going to be in Hollywood. It's going to be at the
Okay.
Kookaburra Lounge, which is a new comedy club, which we're really excited about. Our friend is opening it, and it's going to be fun because it's kind of a smaller venue, and it'll be fun to do like a really fun, high energy small show, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then in late May, we're going to do our first European shows ever, which I cannot wait for. Doing a show in London and then Dublin and then in Birmingham. And it's like literally
So great.
so excited. And then we're also going to we're just going to be tourists. We're going to go,
Yeah.
we're going to romp around Europe for a few weeks. And then we will go back out on the road to do an American tour probably in the fall. That's
Okay.
what we've been talking about. We don't have any dates. We don't have any information. It's just like that is the plan.
Okay.
So everyone will have to keep an eye out on that for that.
Well, you'll come to DC and hopefully we'll
Oh,
be
we
in town.
always DC. Our two best markets in terms of where we have the biggest crowds are New York and DC. New York and
Yeah.
like those are our biggest shows of all time. I've been in those two. So we will always, always, always come to DC.
I've been twice. The last time I couldn't come because I think we were at the beach. I think it was in August, and I can't give up the beach even for Ben and
No,
Ronnie.
you should not give up the beach for anyone.
Mm-mm. But if you're coming in the fall, that works out for me. So that'll be good
Good.
for my schedule.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
we were thinking about. We're like, what is the best chance that we can get Mary Payne here? So
to
I'm
get real
excited.
drunk and yell from the audience. Yeah.
I mean, when you flashed us from your seat, that was a little distracting.
I know. Nobody wants this 50 plus year old lady flashing anybody.
A 43-year-old lady flashing someone.
Absolutely. Now that's something to see. This one, not so much. Now, I've been trying very hard not to be distracted the entire time by my own face behind your face.
Do you want me to take it down? I can take it down.
I'm glad that we're finishing up because I've been a little cross-eyed
sorry.
looking at
Here.
myself.
Look,
Put up your fake background.
Here,
Oh,
here's
there
my
we go.
fake office.
I love your fake office. One time we talked, I was like, wow, you really upped your game there.
Don't you love it? I also have let's see. I also have this, which is this is actually just a traffic circle in Huntington Beach, California that I put up one day, and it was surprisingly really fun to watch when we were podcasting. Just cars
Oh, it
going in a
moves.
circle. Yeah, it's cars in a circle. Is this like not the most fun thing to watch?
Yeah.
Just
Nobody
little
ever
cars.
crashes or anything. They just,
No, that would be the dream. And then actually, there was one day where we put up a live cam from a bar. Let's see if we can find that.
is that a live shot, really?
This is a live shot. This is a webcam from Huntington Beach. I've got an underwater cam. Let's see.
Okay.
This is a webcam. This is a live webcam right now of like a coral reef. And then this is Caribbean. What's this one? This is Elvis's. So on Roni, last season, they went to a bar called Elvis's, and Elvis actually has a webcam up. And what's great about this is sometimes you see these are people who are actively there getting drinks. Like a waitress is going out
Yes,
to get an
uh-huh.
order and then going back, or maybe a waiter.
And they're like, who are
And-
those rich people on the boats back there?
I have to tell you, one of the most fun things, we had an episode once where Ron and I put this up in the background for some reason, and we just kept on getting distracted by the people. And like, it was fun just to recap the people on the webcam.
What's going on that webcam?
Look
Yeah,
at
it must
that.
be.
You got this
It must
person.
be the afternoon, right? Because people have gone in, they've gotten drunk on the beach, and they've gone inside.
Yeah, I think this is probably your time zone. Right? Yeah, it's probably about 3:00.
I feel
Looks
like
like a
you're.
great day to be there.
I
I
feel
know. I
like
feel
you
like
were.
I should touch
You
her.
were. Yeah, I feel like you were touching her inappropriately.
Yeah, that's more. I'm just nuzzling this man's face right here. It's fun.
Oh my God. Well, for people that are going to get to see this on YouTube later, they're going to get quite a treat. Quite a
They
treat.
will. Well, that I was trying to give some visual only exclusive content for you.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, it's better than my giant head. I
Oh
was getting distracted going, is my head really big? Or
no,
the
no.
picture is,
I had to
yeah.
blow it up to make it fit the ratio, and since got blown up, and then I was obscuring part of your face, so it sort of made it look that way. It's a great
What,
picture of you.
what do you record on?
Um,
StreamYard?
StreamYard, yeah.
Okay. So I too could do this because I have StreamYard. I too could put up a webcam.
So, well, the thing is, so I actually have it's a webcam. If you want to see what if you want to see what's really going on here, I have a green
Okay.
screen. I have an
Yeah.
active big green screen behind me.
Right.
Ronnie was like, Ben, you got to get a green screen. So I was like, okay, I got a green screen, and now I play with it all the time, and I
So I
just stick it
see
up behind
here,
me.
yeah, I can add video clips. It
Well,
says,
what I work with OBS also. So there's a software called OBS.
okay.
So what you do is you run your camera into OBS, and then you
Mm-hmm.
apply a filter that keys out a background. So in this case, it keys out the green, and then
Okay.
you can add in video sources, like this is YouTube. You can add in
Wow.
images. It's like the
You've
world's
got it
oyster.
all set up. This is what we were doing in what we were trying to do when we were in.
Do you think this will be good enough to get me on Smartless?
Yeah,
Oh,
look
look
at
at
this.
you. Look at us in Hollywood.
We were in Hollywood. Where Ingrid and I recorded together, but it was just the two of us sitting on the bed, like together with one microphone, and we couldn't get it to work. But I mean, listen, when I do TLC,
Here we are on TLC.
here we are in
It's like
prison because
it's
I
like being a
cover a lot
kid,
of prison
right?
shows. Yes, yes, cover
This is
a
to me the
lot of prison
equivalent
shows.
of like picking up the camcorder, like it being 1986, and someone has a camcorder, and there's like the fade in, fade out button on it, and you're like, say hi, mom, and then it like fades to dark, to
Yeah, or
black.
they
You're like,
zoom in real quick and zoom
wow,
out. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
oh, it's so fun.
We're just little Steven Spielbergs in the making.
Yeah,
Wow. Except for when you got me with all that OBS and no, you lost me
yeah.
there. If I can't
Well,
put it over here on my little board, it's not going anywhere.
that's okay. That's okay.
Okay. Everybody make sure that you are listening to Watch What Crappens and you could follow them on social media. Everything is Watch What Crappens on social media.
Yeah, Watch What Crappens on IG. Actually, Twitter is actually What Crappens. There's not
Oh,
enough space for Watch What Crappens.
mm,
But you can just Google. It's really easy to find us. And I'm at Ben Mandelker on all the platforms. So
all the platforms.
check it out.
And you're verified. We talked a couple of years ago.
I'm
You're very
verified.
upset about not being verified. And I
I
said,
was
I don't
very,
think you really care. And you were like, actually, I do really care.
here's the thing. It's like I've this is like it's like I wanted to be in festivals. Then we got invited to South by Southwest. I'm like, I want to win an award. We won an award. It's like I want to get verified, and I got verified. So I really am running out of things to complain about.
We'll have to make Smartless happen. They'll have
I
to make Smartless happen.
the truth is, I'm actually very, very happy. I feel really lucky that our podcast has really flourished, and that all these, like, I joke about the things that I don't get to complain about anymore, but it actually means something. It's significant that I don't have these things to complain about anymore, and I'm really
That's right.
grateful that people tune in and listen to us, like day in, day out, and really, I would not be able to to have these experiences of going out onto a big stage. It's like who gets to do that? That's wild. So I'm really, really, really grateful. And here I am talking about like, you know, after parties and this and that. Like it's so wild to think that we even have that we even
Yeah.
have the ability, the potential to do a big show on a stage and go out and go to a bar where there could be like 100 people who just are so happy that you're doing what you're doing. It's like it's really, I'm incredibly grateful for it.
Yes. Well, you guys are very funny and you deserve all the awards and you deserve to be on Smartless. So we're going to make it happen.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, Ben.
Bye, Mary Payne.
Imagine upgrading your wardrobe with luxury essentials at unbeatable prices. That's right. I'm talking about my favorite. It's Quince. Quince is here to transform the way you shop with a range of high-quality items priced within reach. I've told you guys about the Mongolian cashmere sweaters, organic cotton sweaters, washable silk tops and skirts. Oh, they're so cute. They've got jewelry. They've got travel stuff. They've got baby stuff. They've got home stuff. I can't explain to you guys how much I freaking love Quince. I bought 2 things this week. I bought a little purse and I bought myself some earrings. All Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Like I've told you guys, go to the bottom of the item you're looking at. They have that chart that shows you comparable brands and exactly what the price difference is. Because they partner directly with these top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to you. Like I said, I recently just got these earrings that are so cute. They're gold. And I'm thinking about buying my new nephew like a little baby sweater. Like so cute. And they also have great suitcases. So indulge in affordable luxury. Go to quince.com/pinkshade for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/pinkshade to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/pinkshade. All right, y'all, it's time to upgrade your uncomfortable shapewear. Support for today's episode comes from Honey Love. Whether you're a bride, a wedding guest, or simply seeking everyday smoothing, Honey Love is the go-to for all things shapewear. Honey Love has revolutionized compression technology so you no longer have to feel like you're suffocating while wearing effective shapewear. This is true. I took my Honey Love little power shorts with me to LA. Nobody even knew I was wearing them. They're so comfy. They never roll down, no matter how much you groove on the dance floor or run around LA in heels that are uncomfortable. Honey Love shapewear features lingerie-inspired design details that you want to show off, and they're made with that breathable fabric that keeps you nice and cool. And for a limited time only, you can get Honey Love on sale. You're going to get 20% off your entire order with our exclusive link. This superpower short is helping ladies everywhere sculpt and smooth from your stomach to your thigh. They offer just that right amount of compression, but it's not so painful that you're miserable by the end of the night. You hardly know you're wearing it, honestly. This one little piece has a little booty lifter. You guys know I need it. Boost bands on the back of the thigh give your bottom just a little bit of bump. So Honey Love has more than just sculpt wear. Of course, they have incredibly comfortable bras, tanks, and leggings for everyday support. So treat yourself to the best bras and shapewear on the market and save 20% at honeylove.com/pinkshade. Use our exclusive link to get 20% off. That's honeylove.com/pinkshade. And after you purchase, they'll ask you, hey, where'd you hear about us? And please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Shape your life with Honey Love. Hey, y'all, this is Mary Payne Gilbert, and this is Payne in the Pod coming to you from sunny Los Angeles. And you could probably hear things out the window because we're recording in a little Airbnb. Okay, I'm beyond excited to have a guest today that I not only stalked, but also begged, cyberbullied, and constantly harassed to come on the show. So if you're a fan of Bravo, then you probably already know about Watch What Crappens. But if you don't, today's your lucky day. Ben and Ronnie of Watch What Crappens break down almost every show on Bravo, and they put about 65 million podcasts a week, plus bonus episodes on their Patreon, and they do live shows, and they do nice things like appear on other people's podcasts. If there's a show on Bravo you love, there's a good chance they talk about it every week. They are 2 of the hardest working and funniest guys you'll ever hear in your entire life. I can promise you that. Hey, Ben, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mary. Thanks for having us. That was so nice what you said.
You know, I was working on it. I typed it up and everything. You can see I'm very professional.
A lot of preparation, and I like your font.
Oh, on here?
Yeah, it's a solid sans serif font you chose.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's modern.
Okay, that's whatever.
Sleek.
Whatever came with the computer. I don't know.
That's okay.
Okay, so as you know, you guys have been my dream guest since day one, and I stalked you in person. I cyberbullied you, and
these are not lies, by the way, people. She really came hard for us,
but it worked.
It did. It did work because here I am.
Here you are.
Here I am
in my Airbnb
exactly,
in Los Angeles
on a furry pillow.
Not my choice. Okay, so tell me how when you and Ronnie first got together and decided to start the Bravo Breakdown podcast.
So Ronnie and I knew each other from blogging about about, oh my God, it's like 14 years ago or so.
Blogging.
Yeah, blogging. Remember blogging? So I with a friend of mine, I used to actually run a TV blog, and we'd recap shows, and Ronnie came on as a writer. And Ronnie, as you know, Ronnie is super funny. He has like a background in improv and theater, and he's just like very quick and very funny, and always enjoyed Ronnie. And somewhere around like 2010 or so, I was hired randomly to host a web show called Housewife Hoedown, where I would like talk about what happened on the Real Housewives this week. It was like a weekly show. And as a host, one thing that I had to do is I always had to book the guests. I had to find guests to come onto my little web show. So I would have Ronnie on a lot, and also a friend of mine, Matt Whitfield. And, you know, both of them were really funny, and we got along. And eventually, after about a year, the network that the web show was on, it folded, and we just decided like we really enjoy what we do and we want to keep doing it. So we said, let's just start a podcast, which was 7 years ago, and we started it. And Matt was also on the show for the first year or so, but he actually has like a real job. At that time he was working at Yahoo, and he was like an editor at Yahoo, so he didn't really have time to do a podcast. So he went off, and he's doing very well on his own now, and we're still friends with him, etc. People always wonder, what happened to Matt? He's doing well.
You kicked him out. Tell the truth.
We kicked him out.
It was a big drama.
Yeah. No, Matt's great. But yeah, that's how it started. Like origins in the blog world.
And so how many years have you guys been doing the podcast?
7 years.
Wow. You guys are like OGs for real.
Yeah, I mean, well, actually, there's some there's the OGs that go back probably like to like 2005 or something like that. There are some podcasts out there that are from those ancient days. But yeah, we've been doing it a long time.
Now, how many do you do a week? Because you cover almost every single Bravo show. So how many podcasts a week do you and Ronnie do together?
We record 5 episodes a week plus an extra bonus episode that is for our Patreon supporters. So it's basically 6 episodes a week. And now that we're actually doing Winter is Crappening, which is like our recap of Game of Thrones. So now we're actually up to 7 episodes a week. So it's basically a radio show. We're doing a radio show, it feels like.
Well, so sometimes your episodes are 2 hours long to cover a 1 hour show. So do you ever start out and say, okay, look, I got to be somewhere. We haven't got to keep this to 45. And then like an hour and a half later, you're like, I just can't quit it. I can't.
It happens all the time where we say, okay, let's just do this. Like, let's do a 45-minute episode. I want to get on with like my day. I got things to do. And it's like always those are the episodes where we're like 90 minutes long and we're still talking. It almost feels like the episodes where nothing happens are the episodes where we just start like going on these like riffs and these tangents out of nowhere. And then it's like 90 minutes later, we're like, oh my God, we still have like 20 minutes left to cover on this show.
Do you guys get screeners? Is that how, or you just watch it like regular people?
No, we don't. We used to get screeners for Real Housewives of Dallas, which was really cool. Bravo would hook us up with those, but we don't get screeners now.
Why just that one show?
I don't know. I was really happy that we had it, and I really enjoyed. Like NBC has a wonderful like screener interface, so I really enjoyed it. I don't know why we don't get more. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. My phone is on. Everyone just heard my email notification. I only mentioned this.
That's better than the trash truck that's right behind us. So
I only mentioned this because I don't want people at home thinking that they all got an email. Everyone, it was me. I apologize.
Yes.
So
screeners.
It would help a lot because we try to like record as much as we can, like in the front of the week, so that way we can just have like a day of podcasting. And so right now, Bravo has so many TV shows. And we haven't been able to cover them all. So we haven't really been able to cover Mexican Dynasties or Married to Medicine Los Angeles.
People love that Mexican Dynasty.
They love it.
I haven't watched it, but people love it. Maybe I'll catch up on it.
I've seen like 2 or 3 episodes. It's a great show. It's so great. But the thing is, like, we are recording a lot, and it's hard to like, it's just, if we could have screeners, we could organize our process of recording a lot more easily, and we could probably cover more of these shows. And I would, hopefully Bravo will start sending us screeners again because, it's also a great way to help people know about these shows. When we cover a show, we can really drive a big audience to the shows because, So they don't all get the same amount of love on Bravo.
No, they don't. A lot, they've got all those home shows now, which I know Ronnie
Yeah.
is pretty furious about.
I actually like that, the
I like
concept
it.
of Bravo Home. And
I like it too.
And I loved Get a Room with Carson and Tom. I thought that was fantastic.
Me too. I think I would watch the two of them just drive around in their car.
Absolutely.
They were so funny.
Yeah, and when you watch them, you're like, oh, like you forgot how clean and easy their banter was. It's
Yes.
just like a joy to watch. I really hope that show comes back.
I do too. I loved that one. And I think that I heard that Carson is getting like a short run series on Radio Andy.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I watch a couple of shows with my friend Erin, who you just met, on her podcast. Once a week, we go on her podcast and we recap like Seeking Sister Wife, 90 Day Fiance, Love After Lockup, super highbrow.
Yeah.
And for me, if I watch the one show and I'm taking notes, it takes a really long time. So I can't imagine the amount of hours that you spend like watching. So if you're watching let's just say you're watching Vanderpump Rules and it's a 1 hour show. So really it's 45 minutes or whatever. How long does it take you to watch it? Because you got to tippity type it.
It takes it's taking longer and longer. And now for me to watch Vanderpump Rules, it takes between like an hour to an hour and a half. Same with New York, because I wind up writing down all these quotes. And what happens is, because I'm really anal about certain things. Like I hate like messing up what someone said, and I hate going out of order when we're recapping.
Yes. Yeah.
Like in my mind, I either like to do a recap show where we just bounce all around, or we're really good with the timeline. I don't like it. Well, we're pretty good with the timeline, and then like mess some things up because that's like annoying to me. And like when we get certain things wrong, like certain things wrong is like, I keep saying wrongs. I'm talking about Brittany. I'm talking about wrongs. But when you get certain things wrong, singular, because there is no plural of wrongs, is there? Then
two wrongs don't make a right.
Damn it, there is a plural. That was a right about a wrong.
Yes.
No, but when you get something wrong, then all of a sudden people will always,
They jump on it.
They jump on it. They're like, oh no, he didn't say that, or she didn't say that. And I'm like, not chill in terms of like, I can't just be like, oh, okay. I'm like, damn it, I got it wrong,
Anal retentive.
So I become very anal. And on top of that, one of the things is that the way Ronnie and I record is that we both take notes, and we record mostly remotely over Skype.
Yep.
And so like, I don't necessarily know where he is in his notes, and he doesn't necessarily know where I am in my notes. And so if 5 things happen in a scene, let's say it's like, there are 5 things. Let's say I think the first 2 things are notable and the last thing is notable. So I'm saying, okay, something happened, and then another thing happened, and then I skipped to the third thing. But let's say he thought something in between.
In the middle, yeah.
In the middle was notable. I've now skipped over what he said. So it's like really easy to get out of order. Like
You'll be like, wait, but you forgot. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what happens is, the reason why I'm mentioning this is that when I'm taking my notes, I'm often writing down what's happening in the scenes. That way I can always like know where in the scene something's happening. And when he talks about something, I know where it is. But what happens is, a note that I write down that's supposed to be like, hey, just so you know, Ben, this is where it is in the scene. When we're doing the recap, I see that note and I assume, oh, I wrote this down because it's a joke. And so what happens is that I'm always starting these jokes. I'm like, this isn't. I like do the setup, and then I'm like, wait, there was no punchline here. Nothing funny happened. I'll be like, I've written it down like it's going to be a joke, and so I start reading it on the air, like, and then Sheena walks in, and then I'm like, I have no punchline for this. I've got no setup. I have a setup that's not for a joke, but I'm acting like it's a joke, and it's not a joke at all.
Sometimes Sheena walking in the room is the joke.
Exactly.
In the corner.
Yeah. Corner.
Okay, so what would you say is your favorite show to recap?
My favorite show to recap is definitely Real Housewives of New York, because it's my favorite show to watch, and it's my favorite show to recap. I think there's a correlation between the shows that I like to watch and recap. It's a great show, and it's like really easy for us to find the humor in it. It's just like, we don't have to do a lot. We can find the jokes, and there's always something to comment on. There's not endless scenes of something boring. There's always something hilarious. The women are like, it's like lightning in a bottle. It's
the MVP of all the housewives.
Absolutely.
What would you say is your least favorite show to recap?
I would say Married to Medicine is probably my least favorite. There was a time I really loved it, but I just kind of feel like it sort of
goes through the same thing over and over again. And I love the cast. The cast is great, and they're like very funny. But a lot of times they get into fights that I feel like, why are you fighting about this? It doesn't feel always as, I don't know, it doesn't feel as real sometimes. It also has like moved into this space where it's always about domestic marital issues. And some people really love it. And some people say Married to Medicine is their favorite because it feels the most real to them. Like, this is stuff that real people go through.
Right.
But to me, it's just, I don't know, like Quad and Dr. Gregory fighting. And I don't know, a lot of times it's just...
From the little I watched of that show, I couldn't quite understand why they were married in the first place.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like, you know, there are these feuds that they have, and they're based off of, I don't know what, you know. But sometimes the show can be really good. But a lot of times I just find it to be, like, it's a chore for me.
Is it over now, though, for the season?
The most recent season is. And then there was just Married to Medicine LA, which I wanted to recap. But we already had too many shows that we were recapping. And, you know, what I really liked about Married to Medicine LA was that it was like a really great showcase for women of color who are smart, they're professional, and you know, Bravo a lot of times whittles down like every group into its stereotypes, and I feel like, you know, representation really does matter, and it was really good to see Black women on Bravo who were, you know, professionals. And that's also what's good about Married to Medicine. I shouldn't say professionals. A lot of them are professional, but I just think it's like, you know, sometimes Bravo, I feel like, shows the worst of like us gays or, you know, whatever. And I just feel like it was like a really good show to have on. And I was sad that we couldn't really cover it.
Because you have so many other ones.
Yeah.
So you do a lot of voices, and what's the most challenging voice that you do?
Candy Burris is really hard for me and that's like our joke, right? Is that Candy is like, her voice is like high pitch, then low pitch, and then like medium, and doing this. So like our impersonation of Candy Burris is like the whole joke of it is that we can't do her voice. So that's why whenever I do Candy Burris, I goes, see now, Riley, because it's always like it's high 1 second and low, and like, you know, I played audio clips where she's like, you know, it's like tuning in a radio. So like,
yes,
you know,
it is like tuning a radio.
Yeah, you know, so you know, that's like our whole joke, and you know, we try to sound like her, but it's like impossible.
Well, I think one of the funniest things is Ronnie doing his Scottish Dorit accent, because Dorit is neither Scottish nor British. So I think it's funny that he took it to like such the extreme of like, it's so ridiculous that I'm just going to make it like Mrs. Doubtfire or Nanny McPhee, or it's hilarious.
Yeah, no, he is like his signature impersonation at this point, and it's like it's the one impersonation where we have two different versions, you know, because mine is more like I try to sound like Dorit, like actual Dorit, which is crazy because Dorit barely sounds like herself, you know.
Right, it changes.
Yeah, so I'm always like you know, Lisa, you know, guys, but his is like, and it's like, it's kind of funny, and like, you know, we really enjoy playing off each other, and I want to play off his Dorit. You know, I kind of want to like retire my Dorit and just do crazy Mrs. Doubtfire also, but that's like such Ronnie's thing that I don't want to like steal his thunder. So I will continue to do just like my little Dorit, and you know.
His is Big Dorit?
His is Big Dorit. His is Big Dorit for sure.
Okay, tell me about your other podcast that you guys started about Game of Thrones. Now, I don't watch Game of Thrones. I just know that there's a million Game of Thrones podcasts out right now that have knocked everybody off the podcast charts.
I know.
So you guys jumped right in on that, and of course yours went right up. But how do you, having not watched Game of Thrones, I don't know, do the dragons talk? Are you imitating the dragons?
The dragons don't talk, and we haven't given them voices yet. Maybe in the next few episodes we can, but we're known for doing like ridiculous voices on Bravo shows. We don't have a lot of ridiculous voices for Game of Thrones. We sort of just give everyone a general British voice. Like if someone's like being ridiculous, we usually talk like this, and then if someone's being humble, we'll talk like this. You know, I don't know. We sort of just like, it's sort of like a like one size fits all British voice for all these characters, but it like works for us, and we really enjoy it.
And you guys just branched into scripted television.
Exactly. This is our first like real scripted TV recap, and you know, it's been interesting. You know, when we cover reality shows on Bravo, we're usually talking about the stupid choices people make and stupid things they say, whereas on Winter is Crappening, we're more like, I hate that character. This person's so, oh god, why would they go there? You know, like, you know, it's more like that, and It's definitely not a serious recap of Game of Thrones. We've had some people initially who were like, this is not a good podcast, because
They don't get it.
yeah, because they're like tuning in for something a very serious, austere recap about like, do we think the king will come on? The prophecy will happen. That's also our Game of Thrones voice right there.
That's good. That's good.
Where people are like,
Having never watched it, I would say it's a perfect.
thank you.
It's perfect.
We feel really good about it. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a break and we're going to come back and talk about your live shows. Okay, I'm back with Ben from Watch What Crappens. So you have a lot of dedicated super fans of the show, and the live shows are great because we can see your expressions and we sometimes see your props, like with the pool noodles that you use for the New York when I saw you in DC. Hilarious. Ramona on the pool noodle. So, but if you had to choose, and you have to choose live shows for everything or record in your house for everything, which would you choose?
That's like a really, really, really hard choice to make. I love the idea of working from home and just, record and then being done. And I have not even had to leave the apartment. But there's such a rush that comes from performing on the stage. Like it is like the roar of like the crowd. It's draining. It can also be really draining, but it is so fun. And I think that like if we didn't have to deal with the annoyances of like selling tickets and trying to get people to fill those seats, I don't know, there's a very strong part of me that would want to do it live, like exclusively.
I've been to two of your live shows. I went to the 930 Club, the big one that you just had, and then I went last year to the Improv in DC. And afterwards, you guys just blend in with the crowd, and like I walked with Ronnie as I was begging him to come on my podcast from the venue to the bar, and then I went in the bar for a while, and then I waited outside you for the bar. That's where I really pinned you down.
Yes, remember it vividly.
As you were just trying to relax. But now how do you kind of keep that line between you guys and your fans? And I'm not trying to say it's like, Kathy Bates situation, but at some point, like, do you ever get like worried, like, okay, we are like literally just going with these 700 people to a bar and maybe that's going to get scary at some point? Knock on wood. So far, we haven't had any real crazies. Like everyone is by and large, like very nice and smart and they're cool. But it's hard because, with the podcast, it's so intimate. They say with, like, if you're a movie star, if someone sees a movie star on the street, they'll address them by saying like, oh, Mr. McConaughey or something like that, or Miss Jolie. And if you see a TV star, they usually refer to them by their first name, because like a movie, it's like a big screen TV, it's like in your living room. But like with podcasting, we're like right in people's ears, and it like really gives the feeling that we're like talking directly to you. I'm not saying that like people listen to podcasts are like deluded, but it creates a huge amount of intimacy, and especially because it's such a casual platform where it's just chatter, and people will listen day in, day out. And for a show like ours, which has been on for years, people feel like they've been in a conversation with us, and they just haven't had a chance to talk yet. So it creates this weird one-way relationship where we don't know who they are, but they know about us, which is fine. But it's like really important to draw a line. Like I feel like it's really important to have a line, have a boundary, because you don't want someone to have an expectation that like we really are the friends that it feels like we are. Yes, right.
Which sounds really obnoxious. Sounds like me being like, we're not friends. Like, my dream would be to be a mean girl, but I'm not really one.
No, it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like it's exactly that. It's like I've got podcasts that I listen to all the time, and I'm like, I am so sure that me and this person would be best friends.
Me too. Yeah, I love listening to board game podcasts because that's like my hobby. So I'm always listening to board game podcasts. I'm like, ooh, if I'm in their city, I wonder if I should reach out to see if like we can play a board game together. But it's like, because you just naturally develop this feeling like you like I don't know. And so I think it's really important to create, like, it's important to remember or like to not blur the lines, because you don't want to set someone up for an expectation that there is more of a relationship there than there actually is. Mm-hmm. And then when they realize that they're upset and they're like, well, they're a dick or whatever, or that they expect certain sort of access. Like, we've had a few people who have actually tried to like come back to our hotel with us, and
sweet,
not to try to hook up or anything, but just because they want to they want to hang out. And it's kind of like, no, like we've left the after party and now we want to go and decompress because we're at those parties, you're sort of like on.
You're still on, yeah.
You are. And it's fun. It's like a good on, but like honestly, after a live show, I just kind of want to like go get some food and like talk with Ronnie, like, oh my God, that joke killed. Oh my God, oh yeah, I was so embarrassed. My joke was so awkward, like
Yeah.
you sort of want to just like chill out.
But your fans, they're always like all the boards, everything, and the Live and Loving It Facebook page. It's like the meetup is here beforehand. That starts at 2, and then the show's at 8, and then I'm like, oh my gosh! So by 2 a.m, everybody is schnockered.
Well, that's it. I mean, everyone is. People, we broke the bar record at the Texas Theater when we went there for like in single night, like the amount of bar sales that our listeners had, and that's the theater that's been around from since 1930 or something like that.
Oh, right.
But the listeners are great, and they have these meetups. So, and we want to meet these people that we see online. So we do it's not like we want to do it and everything, but it's also like important that they're just. I'm not going to go to the after party. I'm not going to get wasted, because I think it's important to just have your wits about you, because. You don't want to send people the wrong messages about certain...
Somebody may follow you back to your hotel.
Someone might, yeah.
And then your boyfriend would not be happy.
No, el scandalo.
What about, speaking of drunk people, what about the drunk people that like yell out during the show and like step on your jokes and yell out like, do Ramona?
I know. It's really funny when people say like, do Ramona.
Do Ramona, do
that. It is kind of funny. It's like, okay, settle down. Here's my thing. I'm like Luann on Real Housewives of New York. Like, I don't mind being around drunk people, but I really have a low tolerance for sloppy people. Yeah. I'm sorry. I kind of feel like after like 23 or 24, you can't be sloppy anymore.
Yes.
I don't know if that's a reasonable expectation, but in my mind, I've decided that that's going to be the cutoff. I'm like, you should know how to handle your alcohol. But I
give it 30.
30 is probably the normal one.
Yeah, I think 30.
But it's more like, have you ever gotten stuck with a sloppy 24-year-old? You suddenly start to say, you're 24, you should know how to drink by now.
Like on Saturday Night Live, Cecily Strong does that drunk girl at the party.
Yeah.
And she's like, and that is like, every time that comes on, I think of this one particular friend of mine from college. I'm like, that is her.
Yeah.
Still at age 50, that is her.
Oh my God. We've all been her too, unfortunately.
Yes, of course.
I've been a sloppy drunk for sure. But just imagine imagine walking into like a sea of people and then there's like just a sloppy person who just will not get out of your face, and you're like, please get out of my face.
You're like, you're giving the rest of us crappening fans a bad name.
It's yeah, and they don't, but it's like, oh my God, I always remember that when we go back to a city, if I see that person, I'm like, I remember that person was a mess last time. I always remember.
I know, you give them a second chance that they may have been having a bad night.
Actually, no, what's crazy, there have been times where it's been like someone's been really sloppy and I'm like, oh God, wait. And then the next time we go back to the city, they're like fine, like, oh hi, how's it going? You're like, what? Who is this new person? And you're like, wow, this person's like totally wonderful and charming. And then you realize like I'm being a dick, just judging prematurely. But in terms of that though, like drunken people at the show, it's hard because people it's like they're excited to finally like see us in person sometimes, because again, they've just been listening. They want to find, it's a chance to finally talk back, have their voice heard in the conversation that's been happening. And
they want you to do their favorite accent or their favorite joke, or their, like if you guys do like the Bethany thing, they want to make sure you're doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. And like we want to do it too because it's like fun. It's fun. People love it and people cheer and, it's like, I mean.
But you're like, don't tell me what to do.
Don't tell me what to do. Okay, fine. I'll do it for you. There.
Are you going to laugh? Then I'll do it.
Yeah.
Have you ever run across, speaking of crazy people, Bravo celebrities in the wild that maybe like don't get the joke or don't, because I know like y'all have a running joke about Ariana. Is Ariana mad at us?
Yeah.
But do you ever run across any Bravo celebrities or hear of any Bravo celebrities that don't think that it's funny?
We really don't. I think most Bravo celebrities who wouldn't get the joke don't really listen, maybe. I don't know. We've never been confronted. We've gotten like a message once, but it's like, actually one time we got a tweet from like Ashley from Southern Charm Savannah, and she was like, before you say these things, you shouldn't know a person. And we're like, really? But in general, like everyone's been fine. Ronnie was saying that one time he met Erica Jane and she's like, oh, so don't you have anything better to do than be shady to a bunch of housewives? And he's like, no. And she's like, ah, and they laugh.
You're like, actually, no, I don't.
I think that was her way of just giving him the business a little like, okay, like you can be shady to me, but I'll be shady to you back, which I think is totally fair. And I think it's actually pretty hilarious that that's what her response was.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
I wonder if Bethany has ever heard you guys do your tandem, Bethany.
Yeah, I don't know if she would think it's hilarious. Like, oh my God, this is like hilarious. This is like exactly what I am. I mean, I was like totally, it's like, you got it right. Like, what can I say? Or it should be like, who these fucking things they are? Like, don't you have something better to do with your life? Like, guys, seriously, like you just sit at home and like make fun of like the housewives. Like, seriously, get a life.
Skinny girl.
Skinny girl.
Okay, we're going to come right back and then we're going to talk about podcast. Okay, I'm back with Ben, and I know that you spend most of your time watching Bravo and doing recaps, but tell me about, first I want to hear about your passion project, The Real Housewives of Kitchen Island.
Oh, yes. Well, thank you for asking, Mary. Yeah, I decided to... Well, it all ties together. So a friend of mine, this guy who I like knew back in like 2005, he started up a cartoon called Game of Zones. It's a cartoon. It's a parody of Game of Thrones, but where it sort of reimagines Game of Thrones as seen like through the lens of the NBA, whereas like all the warring houses are like different teams, or like so it's like LeBron or whatever, you know. And so I had heard of Game of Zones, but it was basically like a year ago or so, a year and a half ago. There was a giant article in the New York Times about Game of Zones, which apparently taken off. It's huge. It was bought by like Yahoo or Barstool Sports or who knows what, and it's huge. And I was like, Adam, this is amazing. Like, I can't believe Adam's like, I know he's into animation. I didn't know that this like blew up.
Yeah.
But it really inspired me. It inspired me that he went and he created something. And he made it. And, you know, I came out here to LA to be a writer. And, you know, I honestly have not had that much success. I've had things that have come really close to being made. I've like had like celebrities that I've like gone out and pitched with. Everything I do has always died at the last, like in the last second, you know?
Yeah.
Which is part of what LA is. But I always feel like there's so many gatekeepers and like there's so many hoops you have to jump through. And I just decided, you know what, like I was so inspired by that article. I was like, I want to learn animation because I just want to like write something and just put it out there. I don't want to go through anyone. I don't want notes. I just want to write it. I'll create it all and put it up on YouTube, even if it gets seen by like 10 people. I just wanted a creative outlet like that. Like, since the podcast has kind of taken over my writing, like I'm not writing anymore really,
Right.
but I still want to keep the writing alive. So I downloaded this animation software and I taught myself how to use it. And I just wrote like little scripts and then started voicing it all. And, you know, it's doing really nicely. It's not like a breakout hit yet. Maybe now that we're talking about it here on the Payne in the Pod podcast.
That's right.
But yeah, it was sort of a way for me to be like, you know what? I want to get my writing directly to people. And I want to write it. I also wanted to do something that would appeal to our audience, our Crappens audience. That way I could, you know, like
pitch it to them as well.
Yeah, like we've got this whole audience. Why not write something for them?
It's really cute.
Thank you.
Okay, now if you ever have time to listen to podcasts, what podcasts do you like?
So it's funny, I don't listen to too many podcasts because we record so much.
Right.
I listen to board game podcasts a lot. Like that's my hobby. When we're done, when we're not.
Explain to me,
Yes.
How do you listen to a podcast with two people playing Monopoly?
No, it's no, it's not like that. So basically, I love playing board games, and it's like for me, it's a way for my brain to unwind from the rigorous work of talking about Real Housewives of who knows where. But I love the puzzle of it all, and I just really enjoy it, and I love playing games, etc. And so there are a lot of podcasts where people talk about the games they played or new games. It's just a way of learning about games, or like, oh, I played this game; it was really fun, and it's a way to sort of get that experience. It's like Watch What Crappens or any recap thing. Like, oh, I saw that movie. I want to hear what you say, what you think about it too. So I listen to a lot of board game podcasts. So there's one called Blue Peg, Pink Peg, which I really enjoy.
Blue Peg, Pink Peg. Okay.
Yeah, and there's one called Shut Up and Sit Down. And then someone I know just started one called Game Brain. So those are cool. Outside of board game podcasts, you know,
So loud. Sorry.
I know. It's the ice machine wants to chime in.
So sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I love me some Danny Pellegrino and
Yes.
everything iconic. My friend Neil has a history podcast. He's a historian. It's called Past Present. It's fantastic. They look at current events through the lens of history.
PAST, past, present?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's Neil and two other historians. They're all professors or professor types, etc.
I have a friend who's always looking for a good history podcast.
Past Present is
Okay,
fantastic.
I'll tell him.
They're just like, it's like smart people talking about things.
Oh, what's that like?
Is that nice?
Yeah.
not rambling on about, Stasi. So then I listen to that, and Taylor Strecker,
Yes.
as you mentioned, we love Taylor Strecker.
Love.
I feel like there's a million. Jackie Schimmel.
Hilarious.
But truthfully, I feel like I support those. Keep It with Ira. I love Ira. Ira Madison III. I should use his full name, otherwise he will be very furious. So I love all those shows, but really the ones I listen to the most are board game ones.
I hear that a lot. Podcasters say that they don't listen to a lot of podcasts because sometimes they don't want to like accidentally copy something or get somebody's shtick and I get that too. And especially, it's not like you're going to go and listen to a recap of Real Housewives of New York when you just spent an hour and a half recapping Real Housewives of New York.
That's the other thing, right? But it's funny because like a lot of times like Danny Pellegrino and I will have like full on overlap with like a photo or a joke or a meme. It's like, and sometimes if Ron and I split the production on our show, so I'll produce like half the shows, he'll do the other half during the week.
Yeah.
You can always tell because we have different fonts on the episodes that we produce. Really professional.
That is inside baseball scoop right there.
Yeah, but sometimes I'll check. Brian Moylan writes Real Housewives recaps for Vulture.
So good. Yeah.
He's really funny, and he always has really good puns in his titles. So sometimes I'll check to make sure that I'm not doing the same pun that he is, because it has happened before, and I don't want people to think I'm ripping him off. So I check in with his recaps every now and then to make sure everything's kosher,
He posted something before the Real Housewives of New York earlier this week, and this will probably come out a couple weeks later, but it was like, tonight there's something happening in the episode that is going to shock the world. It's going to be the most horrible thing you've ever seen. Everybody get ready. And so I was just on the edge of my seat of what's it going to be. But right when it happened, I knew what it was.
Was it the Hustle?
It was
or the Tinsley?
Yes. Tinsley. No.
Was it about Tinsley crying at the couple circus? Or
it was
it
about Hustle.
The product placement
The product placement of Hustle. That was egregious.
It was out of control, and it was so long. You kept on thinking like, oh, they're going to mention, they kept on going and going and going.
The reason Tinsley is like Anne Hathaway is because I was like, you have got to be kidding me. I wrote to Brian Moylan and said, I was expecting Priv to come in and start doing their makeup while they were rubbing Nivea hand cream on their hands. I was like, this could not be more bold.
It was out of control, but you know what? Everyone's talking about it. Everyone was like, oh my God, did you see that thing for the Hustle? And guess what? I didn't even know about the Hustle until yesterday. So it's working. I mean, and unfortunately, it is working, and we'll probably see a lot more of that.
That's annoying as anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're at the end of the podcast. Ben is going to stick around and do a little bit of Patreon for me. So everybody, go on over to my Patreon to hear that. But tell me where people can find out more about you and Ronnie and your podcast and Winter is Crappening and your live shows and the Real Housewives of Kitchen Island. So much stuff.
So all the Watch What Crappens stuff, if you go to watchwhatcrappens.com, that's like where all the ticketing links are, merchandise. There's links to all our social media, but generally speaking, our social media is at Watch What Crappens, except Twitter. Twitter doesn't allow something that long, so it's at What Crappens on Twitter. I'm at Ben Mandelker across the board. The Real Housewares of Kitchen Island is on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube. You just have to search in Real Housewares. And then Crappens, you can find Crappens and Winter's Crappening. Those are, you can find it on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Anywhere where you're listening to this fine podcast is where you can find those podcasts. And then I think that's
we
have a Patreon, patreon.com/watchwhatcrappens.
Yeah,
just go to watchwhatcrappens.com. You'll find all the stuff there. It's our central hub.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Ads not read by me, Mary Payne, don't necessarily reflect the views of Pink Shade. If you'd like to listen to ad-free, you're going to go on over to Supercast or Patreon, and you can find the links to Pink Shade Prime at pinkshadepodcast.com.